Gather round me, children, I'll tell you the news. Don't worry about the names or dates, you already know it's true. Your doctor hates your baby, the prime minister's a ghost, and all them folks are sailing here 'cause they're in love with boats. Superfoods can save us from all our evil sin. JFK and Elvis own a bar in Wisconsin. Vaccinations were created by the CIA to steal votes from Bernie Sanders and turn your babies gay. So click the link you think you like and get tooled for a fight against those lefty fascist communists who are leaning too far right.
Hi and welcome to Not Another Fake Newscast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jerry. So we're here today for the August and September monthly roundup. Or
weekly, monthly roundup thing.
Bi-monthly. It's our first proper recording for a wee while, so I'm quite looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've got so many things on the board, but just timing and coordination. We need other people and we need things and stuff.
Yeah.
So
we should be recording a few bits and pieces over the next week or two. That'll be out there. And in about 3 weeks, when I get back from offshore, we're going to record our next deep dive episode. And it's a doozy.
I've been given permission to also do some editing for some of the stuff we recorded on the recorder at the Byline Festival. It's fucking hellish. So it's taken me quite some time just to try and clean up the sound, because it was in a tent and recorded on a dictaphone. Those two things don't really lend themselves to excellent sound quality. But
we're in the studio now, so hopefully we sound lovely in your ears. We are Not Another Fake Newscast, and you can find us on www.notanotherfakenewscast.com.
Yeah, you can get us on Facebook at PGMcast and Twitter at PGMcast.
Yes, and we are available on iTunes, on Spotify, on pretty much anywhere that podcasts live. You'll also get us on YouTube if you search for NAFNC or PGMcast. You'll get us on there. We're on SoundCloud. We're everywhere.
If you search Not Another Fake Newscast in Google, we're actually about the first 11 hits now.
Yeah, and also if you want to get in touch with us, then you can use our email address, which is info@notanotherfakenewscast.com, or just hit us up on any of our social media. As
ever, all that information will be at the bottom of the show in our show notes.
Yes. So let's kind of crack straight into it. With what was it you were wanting to talk about? It was Eminem, wasn't it?
He's a fucking dick, right? So Eminem released a new album.
Are you dissing him? Is this a diss track?
Well, I actually said to my apprentice at work today, I'm going to record the diss track, right? And I'm just going to point out that two white guys that are worth, one's worth over 8 million and one's worth 190 million, calling each other names.
What's his other guy got a lot of money as well? Who is he? What's his name?
Machine Gun Kelly.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Obviously.
Fuck off.
Obviously. He's from Oregon, and he's also been an actor. And to be honest, he's got tattoos.
I knew a lassie called Machine Gun Kelly, but that was for a totally different reason.
Machine Guns Kelly. Should they call her? Should they call her?
Yeah.
Oh, so Kelly Machine Guns. So there was a fat track dropped by Eminem dissing Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly, by the way, is a 28-year-old man. Eminem is a 45-year-old man. Just remember that before we go any further here. Both of them are white. Both of them are rappers. One of them is worth 8 million. One of them is worth 190 million. They're dissing each other because they are absolutely, possibly at this point, the quintessential example of white privilege. Two white guys dissing each other about how hard their life is. One of them has 190 million quid in the bank.
Have you listened to the respective songs?
Yes.
So what sort of stuff do they say in there?
Well,
are they personally insulting each other?
Yeah. I mean, so Eminem has a dig at Machine Gun Kelly's man bun.
Right.
Which he has.
Which is fair game, to be honest.
Which he has. And, talks about how, he ain't shit, and he's like, he'll never be as big as Eminem, which, is a fair enough thing to say, because Eminem done alright in an area where there wasn't as quite as much rap as there is now. The market wasn't as saturated, and he didn't have to rely on things like Spotify and stuff like that to get his art out there.
And all those sweeties that he sells.
I mean, he was being part of
fine chocolatier.
Being part of the Mars family definitely helped him push his career. People thought it was his edgy ways, but no, it wasn't. So yeah, so the long and short of it is, there's a lot of people talking about how these fucking fat beats. I don't know. This is the terms I was listening to today on YouTube, and people were talking about it, saying, "I don't care what anybody says. This is a killer track." And it's like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to bring it back to the fact he's fucking 45, right? And he's worth nearly 200 million quid. He probably, like, see if he was that concerned that Machine Gun Kelly.
Somebody desperately trying to stay relevant.
Well, see, so I then thought to myself, who's Machine Gun Kelly signed to? So it turns out he's on Interscope Records.
Owned by Jimmy Iovine.
Yes. Now, Interscope Records is one of the 3 listed producers of Eminem's new album.
Yeah.
So Eminem is dissing another guy on the same record label as him.
Oh.
And the media are talking about it.
Ah.
Now, I tweeted Eminem, Machine Gun Kelly and Interscope Records about it today. None of them have replied as of yet. I would imagine none of them are going to reply. Machine Guns Kelly's track is called something like, it's called like Devil of Rap. Like I'm not even fucking, like, because he's saying, you know, how Eminem's God of rap, well, he's the devil of rap. That's actually what I mean. I don't listen to Machine Gun Kelly at all. And so,
are you suggesting that this is just some sort of cynical marketing ploy?
Absolutely 100%, because full disclosure, even though you might not realise it, I'm quite into rap. I know Jerry is as well, so I mean, we were all the way through growing up.
I'm more into the hippie hop.
Machine Gun Kelly's rap is garbage. Like, it's absolute garbage. I don't know if now I'm going to have a beef with this 28-year-old for fucking Oregon, but I can just about deal with that.
Yeah, I think I'll be alright.
It's just, see, as I pointed out again at work today, see if Eminem really had a beef with him, he could have just
walked down into the next studio in Interscope's building or something.
Or put a big pile of his money into investment to be one of the prime investors in Interscope, and then tell him he's not allowed to release another album. Fuck you. That's how we do beefs when we're that's how white 45-year-old men do beefs. Corporate buyovers. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm curious now, because this is the first I'm kind of hearing about this. I want to check if Dre is involved in producing Machine Gun Kelly at all.
I would hope not, because it's absolutely ganting. Do you know what we'll do?
What?
Pause for 2 seconds and come right back. So now we're back. I've let Jerry hear both the tracks.
They're both fucking terrible, man. They're really bad.
It's no great.
Even the Eminem one, it's slightly better, but it's still pish.
Aye, man. It's
the insults are crap and all, and it's like really childish shit they're going over. I can't believe they fucking put that out. That's embarrassing.
Adults.
Anyway, it turns out Puff Daddy produced Machine Gun Kelly's last album, and Dre obviously produced Eminem's. Like, they're executive producers on both of them, but there's about fucking 20 producers on both albums, which is ridiculous. Like,
aye, so the only reason I was bringing this up is because, like I said, I'm pretty certain that this is like
stage managed bullshit.
For reference, if anybody wants to hear what nasty dissing sounds like, if you listen to, and I mean, I am not condoning anything that he says in the song, but if you listen to The Realist, fuck Dre, you will certainly hear the difference between saying that you're going to shit in someone's cereal and saying you're going to murder everybody that they've ever met and loved. Outright saying that, like, I mean, there's a line in that song that says, "Stay away from the name brands Eminem because I'm aiming for the emblem, and I don't give a fuck about Dre or Snoop. You're only mad because the gang was raping you." Like, that's an example of them really attacking like each other, whereas both these disses were just like, "Oh, you smell funny,
you've got a man bun,
you're old, you've got a silly beard, you stay," like, I mean, Machine Gun Kelly actually says, you stay in the studio all the time producing albums. It's not really a diss. It's like his job.
It's an observation. I noticed when I was on Machine Gun Kelly's Wikipedia that he's an actor, and he's been in like the WWE. And I would suggest that this is even more a stage managed fight than the WWE fucking is. Like,
did you also see in his Wikipedia the picture of him at Rocky Arm Ring when he's wearing yellow shorts and yellow trousers, and he looks like a really shite old version of what's your man's name for Stone Temple Pilots?
Scott Whelan.
Aye, looks like a shite Scott Whelan.
I mean, he probably looks better than Scott Whelan does at present.
I don't know, dude. There's not much in it. But aye, so anyway, I was only bringing that up because when I read it today, the first thing that I done was check where the albums came from, and both of them came from Interscope Records. And like I said, the rap commentators at the present moment are all talking about this back and forth, and that's probably doing wonders for album sales.
Yeah, he does look like a shit Scott Whelan.
He does look like a shit Scott Whelan, doesn't he? Like, it took me 2 or 3 times to look at it to make sure it wasn't just a picture of Scott Whelan.
Also, like a shit Bon Jovi, a bit of a shit Bon Jovi as well.
And you know what they say about a shit Bon Jovi? That's
really shit. I fucking hate Bon Jovi, man.
If we're throwing down a diss to any kind of Bon Jovi, I want to hear can I do a John Bon Jovi diss track at some point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Wow.
It's fucking shite. I fucking hate Bon Jovi. I hate them. Anyway, right, so we've kind of...
we broke you down with something light.
So we're going to move on to... I've got written down here, Trump Hurricane of Lies.
Which is just Trump, his entire presidency from start to finish.
That's his wrestler name.
It's weirdly, it's Machine Gun Kelly does his entrance track.
It sounds like a Roald Dahl book, actually, doesn't it? Trump and the Hurricane of Lies.
The Trump that caused the Hurricane of Lies.
Yeah. So this is essentially a story about the Puerto Rico hurricane and the sort of figures and stuff that Trump has been quoting. He basically claimed without evidence that 3,000 people didn't die in the Puerto Rico hurricanes, and he blamed the Democrats for inflating the toll. Now,
he said something similar to when he went to Puerto Rico just after it happened, or when he was talking to the Puerto Ricans just after it happened. He was told like 11 people had died or something similar to that effect.
Well, I've got the tweets are right here. Yep. So 3,000 people did not die in the 2 hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. When I left the island after the storm had hit, they had anywhere from 6 to 18 deaths. As time went by, it did not go up by much. Then a long time later, they start to report really large numbers like 3,000. This was done by the Democrats in order to make me look as bad as possible when I was successfully raising billions of dollars to help rebuild Puerto Rico. If a person died for any reason, like old age, just add them onto the list. Bad politics. I love Puerto Rico. So, yeah.
So, he's a bit of a cunt. Because imagine being in the scenario where you are the President of the United States of America, and during, by the way, a big fucking hurricane that's hitting the US.
Yeah.
Right, so during this, when people are... For any of our American listeners...
This is the Florida one you're talking about?
Well, the East Coast one. South Carolina, I believe, was where it actually landed. But a lot of people there live in wooden houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they got hit quite a lot with storms.
Yeah. Why are they building wooden houses?
There's a story about the 3 little pigs, right?
You might be familiar with it.
Right, so the end story is...
Build your house out of
bricks, because the big werewolf can't blow it down. Now, I'm not saying that with the 90 mile an hour winds... I mean, I'm pretty certain Wishy's probably had 90 mile an hour winds before, or certainly pretty heavy winds.
I remember there was Boxing Day storms whenever I still lived here, so you're talking maybe 18, 19. It knocked down the wall. Oh, it must have been about 17 years ago.
Berlin?
No, not like... I lived I grew up in a block of flats, as you know, and there was a big brick wall at the back around the car park. It blew that wall over. So even if they had brick houses, they might have been fucked still.
No, that was just a solitary brick wall, though. See if
it didn't have any supports.
No, it didn't. My point.
I mean, the flats were alright.
My point being is, I always find it perplexing. It's like the other thing that I find perplexing, and see if anyone does listen to us in the area. I would love to know why live in Hurricane Alley.
I know, but it's like, where do you fucking... you're born there, you live there, you know what I mean?
No, I get it, but I've got a concrete basement to protect myself from the hurricane, and then my house blows down. Then I rebuild my house in a place that is probably going to blow down again. See if the American public were asked the question, should these people be living next to a volcano because the volcano's burnt their house? The American public would generally say, no, that's a stupid place to rebuild your house because the volcano might go off again and burn down your house. But the same basic principle. You build yourself a wooden house where there's going to be hurricanes. I know that that's where you come from,
I know, but I mean, look at, they're pretty sporadic, and you don't know how. I mean, what, Katrina was the last really, really bad one. Fuck New Orleans.
I thought you were talking about
Katrina and the Waves.
Our entries into the Eurovision Song Contest. Katrina was probably the last bad one. It was not.
No, it wasn't. In fact, she was one of the better ones.
it was probably.
What was it? Love Shine a Light.
Aye.
Let love shine a light in every corner of our dreams. Let the love light carry.
That's one.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Engelbert.
It's the last one I actually fucking remember. To be honest,
Engelbert Humperdinck done one a few years later.
Did he?
Aye, that's a thing. That's the thing. Google it.
All right. I can't really remember. Gina G, she was one of yours as well, wasn't she?
I don't think she was one of yours, was she?
Well, she was Australian, but she was our entry into Eurovision, because I remember there being a bit of a furore about it at the time because she wasn't British, she was an Aussie. But yeah, just a little bit. I was pretty shit.
Just a little bit. That's pretty shit. That's because you didn't know the words, dude. That's no the song.
Celine Dion won it, I think.
She did.
Like Switzerland or somebody. We're kind of off the beaten track here.
So anyway, back to the only reason I'm saying this, I always find it perplexing because, like, living in the East Coast, you're living in the East Coast because you're next to the sea or whatever, and you're like living in Kansas is kind of in the middle. Anyway, back to the East Coast at the present moment. So they were boarding up all the houses. They were getting ready. They're all in their wooden houses. They're all going to get knocked down by the wind because of the wooden houses. And Trump said, while we're on the subject of hurricanes, less Puerto Ricans died. It's like, his PR team must have been looking at him like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual... What the fuck? Why did you do that? Like, you could have just says, I hope this hurricane doesn't kill people. The end.
Yeah.
Like, instead of, I hope it kills more people than it killed in Puerto Rico, so the fucking Dems can't lie about it. It's just essentially.
Well, right. So he basically it came off the back of him. 2 days after President drew heavy criticism for claiming that his administration's response to 2017 hurricanes was an incredible unsung success. So in August, the Puerto Rican government raised the official death count dramatically to 2,975. After maintaining for months only 64 people had died. But the government cited an independent study it commissioned from George Washington's University Milken School of Public Health, which analysed the death rate in the 5 months after Hurricane Maria hit the island.
Is that the school that milks public health?
Well, like, I mean, I do
sympathise with him
a little bit, right? A little bit, because
that jump is massive.
Yeah, and it is. They've analysed death rates 5 months following the hurricane. So, but without actually looking at the methodology of the study, like I certainly the mayor, San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, who's been an outspoken critic of Trump's response to the storms, blasted the president's latest claims. They tweeted, "Simply put, delusional, paranoid, and unhinged from any sense of reality. Trump is so vain he thinks this is about him. No, it is not."
Trump's so vain. He probably thinks this storm is about him. Trump's so vain. Trump's so vain. That was awful.
Nearly a year after the hurricanes decimated the island, they were saying that hundreds of Puerto Rican families are still reportedly living without power. So
the problem that you've got though is, see the 64 that they were reporting before. That was just fucking guesswork and stuff that they had 100% confirmed.
Yeah,
I think it's reasonable to say the death rate was higher than that. Was it? As Trump said, they were just like banging on any old folk that died in that time or whatever. It might have been like to get to that. It's likely somewhere in between those two numbers, but so we're clear, somewhere in between those two numbers is a massive.
There's still a lot of people,
but there's also a lot of numbers between there. There's like a 2,300 deficit or something like that.
Well, like Paul Ryan, I mean, he's not a big fan of Trump, but he said there's no reason to dispute the official death toll. New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Mendez blasted Trump on Twitter, saying his botched response to the hurricanes was to blame for thousands of deaths in Puerto Rico. So, there's two sides to it, I suppose. But again, Trump's just kind of ranting in an unhinged manner on Twitter. It seems to be his method of communicating with his public. Although I guess there's a lot of people who are fans of his, who like to be communicated to in that manner. I
think, unfortunately, what we now need to accept is this is the face of modern politics. I mean, like, if you look at in the UK, going off subject a little bit for 2 seconds, the way that the Conservatives, the way that the pro-Brexit, the way that all of that side has operated, has essentially been through social media and memes and their interaction with each other. I mean, like, and like their interaction on social media, not by Theresa May, but by...
that's it, though. That's the difference, isn't it? But
by their influencers. No, I know, but that's only because the person right now, the people right now are the influencers. Essentially, if we roll this back before Trump's presidency, he was just a well-followed influencer. Just so happens, you know, he was less Republican then, but he was a well-followed influencer. Do you know what I mean? So politics has been, whether I want to accept it or not, reshaped by Trump, certainly in America. And actually, that's not fair. It was reshaped by Obama. Obama essentially created this kind of new way of dealing with politics, engaging in social media in a way that Trump has just taken to the next level.
I know, but again, it's about the manner in which he does it, isn't it? It's about the things that he says and the way that he says them.
But it's not going to go back now. That box has been opened. You know what I mean?
Well, I disagree. I disagree because if you have someone who is, you know, more statesmanlike and responsible, you know, look at the way that any of our politicians conduct themselves on social media. Like you just wouldn't have Theresa May ranting like that on Twitter, or Jeremy Corbyn, or Nicola Sturgeon, or you know, any credible politician wouldn't act in that fashion. And I would like to hope that the next president will not be tweeting like Donald Trump tweets.
Oh, I mean, I would hope so. But the problem is there like a bloodlust for that now? Like, is there a desire for the American people to see that now?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard for us as outsiders to know that, but I don't think it's... I mean, see, if you even if you take it down to look at the amount of people who follow Trump on Twitter and then look at the amount of retweets he gets, it's like tiny, really, in comparison to the audience that he has. Like, on average, his tweets seem to get about 26,000 retweets, but he has, 100 odd million followers on Twitter, I think.
See, a retweet of a retweet, does it count to the retweet of the first person that's been retweeted? Oh, there's a lot of fucking words there.
Yeah.
Do you know the word I'm asking? Do you know what I'm asking though? So see, if you posted and then I retweet your post, then someone retweets my post, does that count as a retweet of your post?
Well, it depends. Like if I've just straight retweeted Donald Trump and then you retweet that, then you're retweeting Donald Trump and that goes to his number. If I retweet it with a comment and then you retweet that, then that's a retweet of mine.
So the danger you've got there is, depending on the way that the retweets are going out, it could actually be retweeted substantially more than the numbers that are being shown. Yeah,
but I'm just in comparison to look at, you know, somebody else who has the same amount of followers as him, it's relatively low. I actually saw a piece about this. I can't find it just now. I'll bang it up on the website. But yeah, like how many followers he's got 54.5 million followers, and like
he's got about the same amount of followers as there is in the UK at all.
I mean, 9,500 retweets, 19,000 retweets, 14,000 retweets, 13,000 retweets. He's not pulling a very significant portion of the amount of people that are following him in retweets, is all I'm saying.
But how many people, whether you're retweeting it, if you're reading it, and if you are getting your political information, if you're getting your political fix from tweets from Donald Trump, firstly, get a fucking grip of yourself. But further than that, like, is that not creating a dangerous political landscape that the next president has to deal with? Like, do they have to be there just to make sure that they're covering with the other people?
I think there's an expectation probably that the president is going to use
his own BlackBerry.
Is going to use Twitter now. Like, but I like you said, it was more Obama that sort of set the trend in that, and the vast majority of politicians have Twitter now and use it as a tool. I mean, it's a good way, if it's used in the right way, it's a good way to interact directly with your your support base. And
at least a perceived interaction. You're probably not interacting. I would imagine that very, very, very rarely is Theresa May's tweet by Theresa sitting in the toilet or that.
But what I mean by that is that you can put information unfiltered by the media, you can say exactly what you want to say directly to the people you want to address, essentially.
Do you know what would be nice? See if Labour gave it a fucking go at some point.
Well, I think Corbyn is on Twitter, isn't he?
Aye, well, he definitely is, because I at Corbyn all the time.
But yeah, I very much doubt it's him actually writing a lot of the stuff. But again,
I'm very confident that
I'd rather that was the case than what we have with Trump, where he just like sits in the toilet and tweets whatever fucking shite he saw on Fox News. I know. I'm not saying any of it is a good thing. I'm just saying, unfortunately, it is now a thing. Yeah, and we have to deal with that at the other side. You know what I mean? We have to deal with the fact that the next president, who, come on, America, it doesn't need to be Donald Trump. Well, I mean, so there's a chance that if things proceed, that he might not be there for his entire term, potentially, now that Manafort has flipped. Oh, it's so good. It's the best thing in the world. It's like Trump must be absolutely shitting himself. Like, I know I said this in another episode, but it's my favourite thing. See when he said, I'm going to drain the swamp? This isn't what I thought he meant. This isn't what I thought he meant, but he was right. What he's going to do is he's going to get all the people who are quite corrupt in the Republican Party together, working with him, and then get them all prosecuted at the same time. It's fucking amazing. I mean, we can only speculate as to what sort of deal Manafort has made with the special prosecutor, but he's obviously agreed to testify against significant members of significant subjects of the investigation, I would say. It's reasonable to say he's not going to be going to court. He's not going to be going to jail for as long as he should be going to jail for the charges or the speculative charges that are there for him. Yeah. So he's a grass. He's definitely a grass. But we just need to wait and see who he's grassing up and what he has under his belt, I guess. What he has to say. But it'll be interesting to see. I know Joe is suggesting that the hacktivist media take over Manafort's office. Because it's up for rent now. Because it's definitely going to be up for rent, because there's going to be nobody working in that anytime soon. So that'd be nice to see. Yeah. So moving on then, we've got all the stuff that's been happening around the Skripal case in the past couple of weeks. So what you mean, my two favourite Russians? Yeah. So the British police. So we're clear, I'm not okay with the poisoning. I just mean that. They have a very specific TV personality. They're pretty hilarious. They're just basically trolling the UK media and stuff as well. Oh yeah, we were just there to visit Salisbury Cathedral. It's a great old cathedral. We really wanted to go there. How come you never actually went there then? It was too much slushy. And the thing is, it's a known fact that the Russians hate the snow. So, well, no, they don't. They love snow, but they hate slush. It's never slushy in Moscow. Never slushy in Moscow. I think that's a James Bond movie. Never slushy in Moscow. So I mean, taking this back, what happened is the police named the suspects, identified and put pictures up. And weird manoeuvre. Well, I mean, it isn't. I guess the timing of it is probably an odd one. Like, it's obviously, it's been orchestrated by the government, and they've chosen to do it at a specific time. Can we, when we're talking about one of the things that people are, when the pictures and the videos and stuff like that, I was about to go into that. So when the pictures were all released, and you can get them all on the Met website. Again, I'll put a link up on the website. But one of the things was that the timestamps on the pictures of them going through the arrival gates at the airport had the same stamp, and people were losing their shit over this. Yeah, how could they possibly the same timestamp? Now, as I was discussing with Jerry yesterday at a party, these guys are essentially KGB, right? We have great parties. We have the best parties. But these guys are KGB, right? Of all the people in the entire world you expect to be
exactly where they're meant to be at the exact time. It's the guys with the synchronised watches. You know what I mean? Like, they're literally special forces. So see any of the weird stuff that people are talking about, like, how could they have been at this place at this time? How could they have travelled so efficiently at this time?
People were claiming it was the same corridor, and it clearly wasn't. Like, if you look at the two pictures, the camera is in a slightly different angle on the ceiling.
It's the same corridor in the event you don't take into account everything in the two corridors are different and the cameras are in different places.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would have arrived kind of at the gates where you're then divided into separate lanes at the same time, and they've taken a few steps forward at the same time, and they've been caught on camera at the same time.
Almost as if they wanted to be intentionally caught on camera at the same time.
Maybe. I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch. To be honest, I just think it's just happenstance. It's just circumstance. It's just what's happened. It's a coincidence, albeit maybe a wee bit of a strange one. But you know, I don't think it's that unusual, and I don't think it's a good enough reason to be saying, well, this is all nonsense. I mean, Craig Murray, who has the blog, he's like the ex. I think he was the Uzbekistani. He was ambassador to Uzbekistan for the British government. He has a website where he occasionally just says fucking mental stuff. Like, I saw a thing from another day, a tweet where he said that I'll need to find it. Like, it was the most likely explanation, and it was a properly mental explanation.
While Jerry's looking for that, so one of the key points, one of the questions that has to be brought up is visas. So the flight details, so he's aware, essentially show that your two lads both booked the flight the night before when they were heading to Salisbury. A wee cheeky, what are you doing this weekend, Alexandra? I'm taking a stab in the dark there. But as Alexandra, what are you doing this weekend? Do you fancy going to see a cathedral in London? Yes, I do. Can we get cheap flights? Yes, we can. So they booked EasyJet flights. It wasn't EasyJet, but they booked...
It was Aeroflot.
Aye, Russian EasyJet. But they had to have had visas. Like, so it was fake passports that they travelled under, but it was fake Russian passports. So there was visas applied by someone. There was visas approved by somewhere, and they had them in place before they booked the flights. Now, you could imagine that the scenario is probably something similar to the fact that booking the flights at the last minute means there's less chance of them being flagged that quickly by intelligence agencies, and they were only planning on being there for a wee cheeky day trip. Because it's the same way that, like, mind that time me and you got the EasyJet flight to Moscow to go and see the Kremlin, jump back that day?
Well, I mean, but that's not even a good comparison, is it, though? It's not.
No, it'd be more like, I suppose it'd be more like, mind we went to go and see that church in Stalingrad.
Yeah, that church in Stalingrad that we really wanted to see. Like, you know, that really old one.
You know, the
Magna Carta's there or something. Like,
you know, and even then, that's actually not a good example, because Stalingrad was one of the turning points of the Second World War. There actually is a justifiable reason to go there. It'd be like going to... I'm trying to think, like going to... I mean, it was
Vladivostok.
to go and see, you know, where Whistler's mother lived.
What? Fuck off. Yeah, go and see where the Russian doll factory.
The Russian doll factory.
It's amazing, because inside the Russian doll factory there's a slightly smaller Russian doll factory.
It eventually ends up being like fucking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You walk all the way along the corner, there's a tiny little door. You walk a tiny little door, you go through, and there's a chocolate factory.
So yeah, anyway, the point I was making is that there's a lot of fucking crazy conspiracy theories round about this, and, like, you know, I can understand why. I think what's interesting about the flights is that we know that they would have had to have a visa for entry into the UK. So I don't know what the security services sort of typical practice would be, but I would have thought, like, Russian nationals entering the UK at short notice are probably a bit of a flag. 2
male 40-something Russian nationals, friends of Putin, fake passports.
You could imagine that they would be keeping an eye on them, and for me, I still go with the assumption that this was allowed to happen. Although there's people saying different things. I mean, there was a good article by Ms. Cadwallader in The Guardian, on the Observer on Sunday, basically pointing out that the Salisbury's like the centre of the.
Did you used to say the Salisbury? Is that like the Yemen?
I didn't mean to. Salisbury's like the centre of the MOD. In the UK, they've got loads of bases there, loads of personnel there. They do lots of training there.
They obviously have their poison depot down the road.
Yeah, Portondown's just there. They've moved a lot.
Poison depot.
A lot of the bases that were in, like, you know, Germany and stuff like that. They've moved the personnel from there back to Salisbury. So Salisbury's buzzing with people in the defence sector in the UK. So it's kind of a big middle finger from Russia to do it there. They're mocking how poor the British defence is set up and how bad our intelligence agencies are.
And I mean, arguably, like, so I'm not saying that every single person that comes from Russia should be met with this type of
no, absolutely not. But suspicion.
Yeah. But the problem that you've got is two guys book the flight, short notice, fly over, have a return flight that's booked even shorter notice, and they're able to, in that time, jump into Salisbury, poison a lad and his daughter, and then get back on the flight and head back over the road without causing a whole mass hysteria scenario. It pretty much shows that if that is the case, so if the narrative that we're being told is the actual outline of what happened, then pretty much no cunt that's ever crossed Putin that's in the UK is safe at all. At all.
No, and that's what he wants. There was another good article in the New York Times, sort of talking about why actually Putin had a bit of hard on for Sergei Skripal and wanted to punish him for being a traitor, because they were both in the FSB at exactly the same time. They're about the same age. There's every chance that they knew each other, but also Putin has a real hard on for what he perceives as traitors to Mother Russia. And there's, to me, there are people who have questioned whether Putin would have any motivation for doing this to Skripal, considering that he's, you know, no longer an asset, that he's no longer involved in the spy world. But to me, it 100% does. Even
antiquated information can still fill in blanks from investigations and stuff like that.
But it's not even that. It's just a warning to anybody else.
Who would consider, but what I mean is even further than that. Even if you are out the game for 10 years or 15 years, if you can fill in blanks to stuff they were looking at 20 years ago and 25 years ago, it then gives you the ability to close cases or better understand what happened in cases, which gives you better intelligence moving forward. That's the whole point of the collecting all the information here, so they can then have various matrices that show how things work, so they can work through different scenarios when it comes up. Like, we know that he was directly involved in the poisoning with your man Litvinenko. Yeah. That was in the last couple of years. 2 years ago? 2 years ago now? That's about 2 years ago now, isn't it?
Litvinenko? Yeah. Oh no, that was about 10 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it actually?
It was like 2008.
Did he not die like 2 years ago though?
I'll just go check. Litvinenko, I'm sure the poison was about 2007, 2008.
Was he not alive for ages though?
A wee while, but not Litvinenko. No, I don't know. I'll just double check. He was poisoned. He died in 2006, mate. So
he died in 2006.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And he was,
I thought it was much later than that.
No. I mean, he died relatively.
I do get mixed up with all the Russians that have been killed by Putin. We did do that bit
in the episode. Yeah,
that bit in the episode. There's a good reference point for anybody who wants to go back and listen to that bit in the episode.
I was in the Skripal episode.
I'm actually cautious about the various stuff that I talk about with it, because essentially people who have spoke out about Putin, who are Russian, have ended up very dead, and we now have another person who spoke out against Russia, and he's now ended up very dead. And logically, there's a connection. I mean, like,
oh, the Pussy Riot.
Well, then your man from Pussy Riot is the next one on this list, who got poisoned, or allegedly got poisoned.
Well, like Bob Woodward was on the telly, was on Mar on Sunday. He's the guy who wrote the Fear book about Donald Trump, and he was sort of talking about, you know, Russian collusion and how to investigate it. And he was essentially saying that for him to be able to investigate it further, he would have to go to Russia and speak to Russians, and you would have to try and speak to somebody from Russian intelligence who worked with the Trump campaign. And he said, and to go there and to ask these kind of questions, I would be killed. You know, you can't go to Russia and ask these questions, so the investigation dries up at that stage. It's no secret that Putin kills journalists. He kills people. He does it all the time.
And then, like I said, so your boy we were just talking about there from Pussy Riot has found himself very poisoned very quickly, and they are very outspoken against Putin.
Yeah.
So much so that they find themselves in the jail about every 4 weeks, as far as I can make it. Must be a nightmare to book for gigs. So I don't know if he was there at the Bangline Festival.
I don't know. I wasn't there that day when they played.
They were all wearing fluorescent
balaclavas,
terrorist masks, so it's very difficult.
Playing really shite music.
Playing like GABA. Like, I mean, it's... see if you were on like a specific combination of drugs, it'd probably be banging. And I mean, the thing is, even the deputy leader of Labour was there.
Tom Watson.
Taking pictures.
Oh, I'm glad it was pictures that you went with there. He was there taking a bad combination of drugs and enjoying GABA.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of us got pictures of him just like... I'm not going to lie here, I'm not a big fan of Tom Watson. I think he's a fucking horrible human being, and I think he's a blue right, and I think he is about as right wing as you can get in Labour, and he was standing at the front taking pictures to make sure to show that he was there with Pussy Riot. Either that or he was working for the Russians, you know. It was
maybe it was him that...
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but many of the high ranking officials in Labour work with the Russians. We've been told this time and time again.
Well, now the Times had that leaked thing for MI6 the other day, suggesting that MI6 believed that Michael Foot, who was the leader of Labour at the time, was working with the Soviets.
That's what I'm saying. Lots of the high up Russians, Labour's, sorry, Freudian slip, work together. So, you know, maybe that's why Tom was there, running some recon. So that might also be liable. I'm going to say allegedly.
Allegedly, and it was a joke.
It was a joke.
So we have to then look at your doll, Karen Bradley, don't we? The Northern Irish secretary, who it turns out...
She's an absolute pelter. She's a pelter.
Absolutely no knowledge of Northern Irish politics at all.
So, Jerry, I'd like to offer you a job.
Well, all right, what is?
So, I'm going to give you the job of being in charge of Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Now, you're not going to run into any problems.
I'll be all right. I know.
This doesn't work. It'd be much more like, Jerry, I'm going to give you a job. Would you like to be in charge of
Angola,
Sarajevo?
I mean,
Kosovo. Would you like to be in charge of Kosovo? Abdi's cool there, chill, and then showing up later, just going, and what happened? Because that's essentially what she's done.
Ethnic cleansing. Well, yeah. So Karen Bradley admitted that before becoming Northern Ireland secretary, she was profoundly ignorant of the country's political divisions and slightly scared of the place. I mean, I can understand the slightly scared bit.
Aye, man. I've been to Belfast a lot, and.
But she said she was unaware that nationalists did not vote for unionists and that unionists did not vote for nationalists. Which is pretty much the most fucking obvious thing about Northern Ireland. You could like, she was surprised that Republicans don't vote for the DUP and that unionists don't vote for Sinn Féin, essentially. So
Jerry Adams and Ian Paisley aren't friends.
Aren't they mates?
Is that what you're telling me? Like, where the fuck did she grow up? I mean, where the fuck did she grow up? Like, did she? It's literally called The Troubles.
But why did they give her the fucking job? Like, this is a direct quote from her. I didn't understand things like when elections are fought, for example, in Northern Ireland, people who are nationalists don't vote for unionist parties and vice versa. So the parties fight for election within their own community. Wow. Shut up. Who let her say that?
It's like, she's She's an elected official of the UK.
It just again shows the fucking blatant disregard that the Tory party have for Northern Ireland in general.
I see if you're unsure of whether or not they're going to fix the border, they're not.
No, because they don't give a fuck about Northern Ireland.
Because see the person who was in charge, like see the person who should have been sitting in Westminster saying, guys, I think we should have a look at this border yet because it's getting a bit tight. She didn't know there was going to be a problem when she took the job. Like,
it's shocking.
It's perplexing.
The Jenny Chapman, who's the shadow Brexit minister, said that the emissions were embarrassing. She said, given this worrying lack of basic knowledge about Northern Ireland, it's no wonder the Tories don't seem to understand the vital importance of preventing the return of a hard border there, which seems to me to be a fair enough assessment of the situation. Like, they don't care about Northern Ireland. They don't have any interest. They have appointed somebody who doesn't even have the most basic knowledge of Northern Irish politics and put them in charge of Northern Ireland. Like, what the fuck is going on? And
the thing that's more perplexing is seeing the Tory backbench.
Yeah.
There is Tory backbenchers who were in Margaret Thatcher's backbench, possibly even literally. But what I mean is there's members of the Conservative Party right now who are serving as backbenchers who served in the party at her time. Maybe not backbenchers, but served in the party at her time, who know of the turmoil, who know of the very tight political issues that occur over in Northern Ireland. So it's not like there wasn't a fucking pool of people who could have stepped into the job who at least understood the tensions and understood some of the politics.
I think, obviously, Theresa May's problem at the moment is that she is trying to keep her cabinet position stocked with people who support her vision of Brexit, and there aren't that many of them, essentially.
I'm going to go off on one here because I've just remembered another thing that we've not spoke about that we're going to add in. So there's a little thing happening in Dublin at the present moment, and it's only because we were just talking about the paramilitaries.
Yeah.
So in Dublin at the present moment, there's like an Occupy movement, which is different from the previous Occupy movements. What they're doing is they're taking buildings that are sitting empty and they're turning them into homeless drop-in centres. So a bit of honesty and information for people who don't know. See, in Dublin, they've got quite a bad homeless problem. They've got quite a bad, like, I was there last weekend. There's guys out their face lying in the street sleeping. Like, you get after Lewis. There's people getting off the Lewis who have money, you know what I mean, who clearly have money, and they're walking by blocks of flats. Where, and I mean, this isn't like hyperbole, and this is like, I witnessed this like last week, and there's guys lying passed out on the ground, just being ignored and walked by, like essentially through a smack, right? Yeah. Passed out in the street. There's tents set up, and there's a tent set up on the grass outside the Memorial Park. There's and fuck man, I'm even going to call it out. St Joseph's Church. Fucking, there was a woman sleeping on the ground in a sleeping bag in the rain in front of the statue of St Joseph next to St Joseph's Church, and no one done anything about it, to the point where I was like, I'm going to fucking go and shout at the fucking church. And I was told, you can't do that. I was like, how? Fucking shout at cunts. I mean, like
there's no point shouting at a building, Paul. It's
no, I don't know. I can shout. So anyway, so what they're doing is they're kind of creating what we will call somewhere between safe house / drop-in centres for the homeless, the Occupy movement.
Yeah.
Now, it's been suggested...
and they're like forcibly like going in, like squatting in them, essentially.
Yeah. And you'll see pictures floating around. There was a lot of protests in Dublin after this happened. Essentially, the police in balaclavas, by the way, looking like SWAT, showed up and forcibly kicked everyone out the house. And there's a lot to be said about the fact that the police didn't want their faces attached to this.
Yeah.
So they were wearing balaclavas. But further than that, if you actually look closely at the pictures, you may notice in the background there's some lads who are not the police, who are actively trying to hinder the police from getting in. And they're wearing a very familiar black balaclava, black bomber jacket, black DM boots attire. It's been suggested, and I'm only bringing this up because there's not enough evidence to say, but it's been suggested that paramilitaries might be helping
the Occupy movement.
To think of it as security, you know what I mean, to work the door, as it were.
Right.
It's just something interesting to think about, that the people rose up. I mean, there's people fucking literally in the streets shouting and screaming at the public officials for kicking these homeless people
At the
out.
Garda.
These are fucking homeless people with no home, in the rain, lying
there's
in
empty-
sleeping bags,
and there's
and
empty
empty
homes,
fucking
yeah.
buildings. And this shit's happening in the UK as well. This is happening in London.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Jeremy Corbyn suggested the use of, like, you know, empty houses in the London city centre.
After Grenfell?
After Grenfell, yeah. And he was basically fucking shouted at and called a communist, etc.
Yeah, it's a fucking joke. See, if there's empty houses and we have homeless people in the streets, those homeless people should be in those empty houses. Fucking Tory landlords making more fucking money off of empty buildings, just sitting there on top of it as property and letting people fucking starve and die of the cold, like people lying in rain. Like, there was a man literally dragging himself down the street. I was in the bus, by the way, or I would have helped this guy, but I went by and I even pointed out, I was like, look at that guy, and he looked like he was fucking scared of his shadow. I mean, he looked like he was fucking 3 days on an acid bender. He didn't look like a good way, but he also looked homeless and dragging himself across the street, and people were just fucking walking by him, man. Like, it's became a bit of an epidemic in Dublin. It's no nice.
Yeah. So is there an element of it where people just don't want them on the streets, they want them out of sight, out of mind kind of thing? They're like, oh yeah, let them go in those houses so I don't have to look at them.
Possibly. The other thing that I will say is, seeing all these cases that I'm talking about, those people were white Irish people.
Right.
Like, it's not like the streets are filled with loads of homeless immigrants. These are because people can't afford to live in Dublin. They can't afford to live there.
I mean, in my experience of homelessness in Edinburgh, like my ex-girlfriend used to work in homeless shelters. She was a volunteer worker. Well, she wasn't a volunteer, she did it for a living, but she worked in homeless shelters in Edinburgh. And I, through her, would meet a lot of homeless people and speak to them and stuff like that. And 99% of them were Scottish, you know, or British. They weren't immigrants, like, who were using those facilities and taking advantage of, you know, the drop-in centres and stuff like that.
Now, I'm not trying to, like, stir up some kind of racial hatred or anything, but it's just to point out that, like, when people are talking about homeless people and street crime and all those other things, like, it's our people, do you know what I mean? It's the people from that area, like from Edinburgh, from Dublin, who are out in the streets, because our government is fucking taking advantage of them, fucking destroying them, not giving them proper support for their mental health issues, not giving them proper support for the medical issues, not giving them proper support across the board.
It's a problem with poverty. It's like everything comes back to poverty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean. Austerity doesn't work.
I mean, these people have came from damaged households and had damaged upbringings that have led them to these places, and all of that is a result of policy, which has been enacted by largely a Tory government, but also by Labour in the last sort of 40 years in the UK that have led to the social conditions which makes these things happen, which leads to an epidemic of homelessness, etc. I know it's not the same, and we don't have the same government over there in Ireland and whatever, but obviously Ireland was hit incredibly hard by the financial crash, and it's still kind of trying to recover. The
other side of that is then what they've done is they brought in loads of business, they brought in lots of money, so lots of money started circulating in the upper echelon of society, if you will, which meant that the property prices get fucking driven up.
But hasn't it trickled down? Trickle-down economics? Trickle-down
economics only works if people are willing to trickle it down. Holding on to the money then stops trickle-down economics from working, Jerry.
All right.
What would be interesting is, and I'm actually just going to say this on here to remind us, even though in the grand scheme of things we'll probably listen to this episode less than most people, we should maybe talk to Loki and maybe try and do something out in the field.
Yeah.
And visit homeless centres or something like that. Maybe even I can do it in Dublin and stuff as well when I'm over there, and just get an actual idea of how the homeless people feel they're homeless, or why the homeless people feel that they're in that scenario.
Yeah.
We'll do it in a nice way. We'll just be like, here, why are you homeless? Why
are you homeless? Fucking loser.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, no, that would be a good thing to do, definitely, man. I think the problem, right? These groups are like occupying empty homes and using them. Are you in favour of people forcibly having their property removed from them, or like, do you think the government should buy it from them, or?
Well, the problem is you become a communist if you say and not you become a communist, but like it's a very communist manifesto thing to say, well, we're going to take all the fucking houses off the rich. When if you've got a second house, it's now Paul's house, and Paul's going to own all the houses, and then I'll decide who lives in the houses. I mean, that would be like me going heavy Stalin. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm not in favour of that. That's psychotic, right? But see, I don't know, because I find it difficult, because as a person, if I've got my house and I've got another house and I've seen people in the street, I couldn't not let them be in that house. Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't. Maybe it's because of where I was brought up. Maybe it's because of how I was brought up. Maybe it's just because I've got a fucking heart or a soul or something. So if you
had a second home that you weren't using, you'd be happy to give it to a bunch of junkies off the street and let them use it?
As long as it was being managed by someone who was making sure that they were using it without just using it as like a fucking drop-in house for banging through heroin.
Right, because that's obviously what you need to.
But that's what's happening here. I mean, the Occupy people are managing the house.
Yeah.
For lack of a better description.
Yeah, so they're making sure it's not being misused, and they're not just like wrecking the fucking place and whatever.
Aye, I mean, they're using it as
shitting all over the living room.
Aye, I mean, they're using it as, like I said, essentially like a drop-in centre, somewhere they can go and be safe and be off the street.
Yeah, well, I think that's reasonable.
And to be honest, see, if there's hundreds of fucking paramilitaries walking about as well, you're probably not going to be fucking breaking anything. Do you know?
That's true.
Like, you're going to have the fear. But if I had a set, so now if I was in a situation right now where I was wealthy, and I had my house and it was all paid and it was cool, and I had a second house, and that second house was in a place where there was, I don't even know if I could have a second house, you know what I mean? But like, if I did have, and it was in, say, Edinburgh or something like that, and Edinburgh was having the same problems that Dublin was having.
See, if you lived in Wish and had a second house in Edinburgh, I'd be having a word with you, mate.
You'd be a right type of cunt.
Well, you want to be using your second house as a first house, buddy, and fucking.
No, because you probably get more land in Wishaw than you can in Edinburgh. No, probably. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Aye, but it just seems like a random setup, that. Anyway,
my point being, yeah, I mean, like, as long as I could give it to charity, I mean. We nearly went Martin Luther King there, by the way, honestly. I was like I've got a dream, right? Like, I would love to be able to do that. I would love to be able to create a scenario where there was a Premier Inn for homeless people.
Well, I also think that, like, there should be some sort of cut-off point. Like, so if a home or a building has been sitting empty for X amount of time, then you're not using it, if you can't prove that it's being used or for anything, whether it's commercial or residential or whatever, it's just literally sitting empty, accumulating money. Like, it's purely for greed, and it's purely for increasing wealth of somebody who's obviously fucking so wealthy that they can afford to do that. I don't think that's right.
See, just as a footnote, see that spunk truck that fucking Jacob Rees-Mogg? His house is more than twice the size of Buckingham Palace. He owns the largest, well, his wife, but he lives in the largest privately owned house in the UK.
He seems so down to earth as well.
I'm just making that point, because actually
you would never know to look at him or to listen to him speak that he came from a privileged background.
You could be in one of the rooms in his house and he wouldn't fucking know. He says it's massive. Like,
are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting nothing, because he's probably quite
he winked there, by the way. He winked. He's probably be in one of the rooms in his house. He wouldn't even know. I get you, Paul. I hear you.
Like, oh, where's Paul? He was working in the kitchen yesterday. We've not seen him for 3 days. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like I said, it's
just jump out at him with a knife. Is that what you mean?
No, we did not say that. Right? That was not even. It's not even. We're not even joking about that. That's no, because people are crazy, Jerry.
Okay,
People are crazy.
Yeah, please don't hide the Jacob.
People are crazy.
Don't hide the Jacob Rees-Mogg house and murder him. Okay?
Oh, please.
Definitely
under
don't
any
do that.
And actually, while we're on that subject, before we go back to the subjects it's written down, see the guys shouting at Jacob Rees-Mogg's children? It's a fucking disgrace. It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I hate Jacob Rees-Mogg. I hate everything he stands for. I hate his da. I hate his book. I hate the fact that his wife lives in a big fucking massive, and it's not even this way where it's like jealousy.
But you wouldn't shout at his Wayne.
No, I'd shout at him hunters. I'd maybe shout at his wife because she strikes me as she's probably a cunt.
What would you shout at him like?
You're a cunt, Jacob Rees-Mogg. You're fucking...
It doesn't seem very productive either, to be honest.
No,
like.
but you asked me in a moment.
No, but
I think if he was rushing by and my first opportunity was to shout at him, I'd make him know that I knew he was a cunt.
I don't think... I mean, if I seen him, would I shout at him? I don't know if I would. I don't know what the point would be.
You're funded disaster capitalism and you're moving all your investments to Dublin, you fucking creepy prick. Some along those lines, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, just so he knows I know.
I've never seen him doing the pub in Wishy though, so it seems unlikely that our paths will cross.
Me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Lanny, Saturday night, couple of jars. He's not happy that pretty much everybody in the pub's a socialist, and he's right now. I mean, like, so just kind of on that subject. Don't shout at somebody's kids, right?
No.
It doesn't matter that these kids are being brought up with a fucking silver spoon in their mouth. It doesn't matter if they're going to private education. It doesn't matter that they might one day be the same grade A cunt that he was.
But they're children.
And
they have
don't
no
deserve
choice.
that. And there was a guy shouting how he was going to assault the kids. White power guy walking down the street shouting at the kids. Shouting how it's time that they get a doing or a beating or something to that effect. I watched the video.
We'll put the video up.
Kind of hope he got a doing, to be honest. Like, not the kids.
The guy who said
your
that.
Man, aye, because he deserves it. Because they're kids, man. They're fucking
That's
kids.
horrendous, man.
That is horrendous. Like every day they wake up and Jacob Rees-Mogg is already their da.
Yeah, they've got it.
They've got it tough. I mean, they don't see their da. They see their nanny.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, it's his nanny. That's their nanny.
Aye. His nanny actually went around in his car when he was flyering. So see when he was like... running for local council essentially. His nanny was in the car and they drove him around in his, I'm going to say, Mercedes Rolls Royce Bentley thing, large fancy shiny affair. She sat in the car while he went out and leafleting just in case, I don't know, he needed breastfeeding.
He was a wank or something.
Well, we went very different places there, Jerry. Maybe it was at the same time.
Probably.
That's his thing. Fact. Libel. Drink. So anyway, back on topic now. We went right off topic. So we were talking about Northern Ireland and how she doesn't know, and then we ended up talking about paramilitaries and occupying. That's how I got to that point.
Yeah. So I mean, there wasn't really much more to say about her, but keeping with the Tory party and their fucking nonsense, we have the story about the Conservative MEPs who voted with the autocratic, totalitarian fucking dictator,
what you
leader
mean,
of Hungary.
You mean the anti-Semite?
Viktor Orban, who's also, a virulent, I can't even fucking say that, man.
Virulent
anti-Semite.
He's right into it. He's right into anti-Semitism. He's big on it. He's not a fan of Jews at all.
No, he doesn't like Jews. He actually waged a specific campaign of hatred towards George Soros.
I mean, to be honest, George Soros is the reason for all wrongs in the world. Have you seen our Facebook comment section?
And he's also Islamophobic. He has, he's
a fucking racist, right? He's a fucking racist.
Yeah, massively.
He's a xenophobe. He's a racist. He's an asshole. Fuck him, right? Can not another fake newscast go on record as saying that? Fuck him.
He's described refugees as Muslim invaders. He's been accused of being deeply Islamophobic. So essentially, there was a vote in European Parliament amongst all of the MEPs from the EU member states, and it was whether or not they were going to invoke the Article 7 process, which is when they start to basically sanction Hungary because of the things that he's doing in Hungary in terms of free speech of journalists and the sort of fascist totalitarian policies that he's enacting at the moment over there.
European Parliament, is that like the picture from European Parliament of new UKIP member Count Dankula Marcus throwing up the white power logo.
Aye, that
throwing up white power hand symbols, and the guy who people, not yourself actually, but people totally said he wasn't racist what he'd done, but he is racist because he's throwing up white power logos and as a member of parliament.
I mean, essentially, I defended him on the basis that I didn't think that there was any intent. It was just a joke, but he is kind of shown in the things that he's done, the people he's associated with, the things he's said, and the platforms that he stood on since then, that I was wrong to defend him on that basis.
It's very big of you to say so. It's very big of you to say so. We'll put up the picture of him. You can check the tattoos in his hand. It's his hand.
Yeah, given the white power symbol. But yeah, so like going back to Viktor Orban, he's been accused of violating press freedoms, undermining judicial independence, waging an anti-Semitic campaign against George Soros. He also has been accused of allegations of corruption relating to alleged misspending of EU funds by his friends and family. And undermining civil rights. So he's up to a lot of bad shit over there. And when there was an opportunity for the Conservative MEPs to vote in favour of enacting this process, all of them bar one, I believe, voted against doing that. Even the far right Austrian leaders, all of the centre right. So there's like a centre right sort of group within the European Parliament who tend to vote together, but they all voted against Viktor Orban. And
your Austrians, the Italians, a couple of the French. I mean, the lads of UKIP.
So we essentially we were the only ones. The Conservatives' isolation in Strasbourg was underlined after Sebastian Kurz, the Austrian Conservative, who is himself in a coalition with the far right, ordered his MEPs to vote in favour of the sanctions. Manfred Weber, the Bavarian who leads the main Conservative group in the Parliament, also said he would back the motion, as did most centre-right delegations from other countries.
But not our Tories.
Not our Tories, no. And they are literally standing on a platform then and defending an anti-Semite. So where are the accusations of
Where's the newspaper? Where's the Daily Mail?
In fairness, Andrew Marr asked a couple of questions about it on Sunday, but I don't think he went far enough. And I think Gove's defence of it was pretty poor. I also think he lied on the Marr show, and Andrew Marr didn't give him a hard enough time about it or pull him up about it enough.
See, another thing. See, everybody goes on about George Soros and how terrible he is all the time. See, in the event, people who are in high political positions can only attack him for being Jewish. That's how difficult it is to tie him down to being the type of bad person that people are making out. I'm not saying that he's any kind of saint. What I'm saying is he gets it rough off the right, and as far as I can make out, he only gets it rough off the right because he is a Jew.
Well, I guess because he backs political parties and movements that they disagree with.
Yeah, I know.
But the difference between him and some other donators is that he does everything entirely transparently. Like he does partially fund open democracy, but it's quite clear on their website where their funding comes from. They list all their donators, and the George Soros Foundation, Open Society Foundation, is on there. You can look into the Open Society Foundation and you can look through a list of everything that they donate to. Obviously, he gave money to the Clinton campaign. He's given money to pro-Remain groups in the UK, but he's entirely transparent about it when he does it.
Do you know who else gave money to the Clinton campaign? Donald Trump. Just,
Not that campaign though, right?
No, but
previously.
But previous campaigns, yeah. Well, like, obviously, that would have been...
That would be mental.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be fucking shocked. Like, because, he does do the whole psycho thing. But yeah, he's another, obviously, supporter of the Clintons for quite some time.
Remind me, did Hillary Clinton run to be the candidate against Barack Obama when he was running for candidacy?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I was just checking. I thought that. That's probably why he gave her money, because Obama's black and he's racist.
Who, Trump?
Yes.
I can't even tell anymore if Trump's actually racist.
I think he is.
Like, I can't tell. Like, I genuinely can't. Like, his supporters are. and there's many members of his cabinet and stuff like that are. But I can't tell if he's racist or if he's just like a dick. I think he may just be a dick. Like, I don't think he hates black people. He just hates.
Okay, well, he might not, but he certainly there certainly appears to be tapes somewhere from outtakes of The Apprentice when it was getting filmed, in which he uses various racial epithets and insults.
Is he singing NWA tracks though? Because it's really difficult to sing NWA tracks without dropping the N-bomb. It's pretty much every third word.
I would really like to see Trump doing like fuck the police. Yeah, that would be pretty good.
I wouldn't do fuck the police, not the president would. Like, fuck the people who stand up against the police. I
was actually talking to a police officer a wee while ago on a stag do, and this guy's no longer a police officer.
How libelous is this? Like, libelous?
Well, he's no longer a police officer, so fuck it. I'm just going to tell the story. He was saying that, like, on his first day, like out on proper duty, he like partnered up with this boy and he got in the car, and he says as soon as he got in, he, like, the guy paired up his Bluetooth to the stereo so he could play music. He's like, you're not really allowed to do that, but he was just like, that'll be fine, fuck it. And they were bouncing around Edinburgh with Fuck the Police by NWA absolutely blaring it to their stereo, just fucking getting it in about it.
I also know a policeman that when he was running across the rooftops once with his colleague, and they were very early on in his career, he was chasing after a guy, and while they were running across the rooftops, his colleague turned around to him and was like, this is like being fucking Batman.
That's amazing. So yeah, police are people too.
Yeah,
some of them are cunts.
So are people though.
Yeah, this is the thing. But I think proportionally, there's more cunts in the police because it attracts cunts.
Does it? Or do you join the police and then become a cunt?
Well, maybe a bit of that too. Yeah.
What came first? The policeman or the cunt?
Who knows? The cunt. So that's happened. There's not enough shouts about the Tory party's own anti-Semitism scandal. You know, I haven't seen that on the front page of the Telegraph.
Of the everything.
Of the anything.
However, they did see it in the Daily Mail. Did you see them do the story that it wasn't a story? And the thing is, it actually wasn't written in a negative way. And I actually did contact them on 3 occasions and tried to phone them to get an answer for this. But they had done a story about Jeremy Corbyn to point out, and the way it was worded showed that Jeremy Corbyn's front bench were all ethnic women, essentially.
Yeah, they were talking about how he had the most diverse cabinet.
The most diverse cabinet of...
and it showed it in comparison to the Tories.
And it was, I believe, something like 85% of his bench across next to him and the bench behind him were made up of women. There was like 3 men, and they were black and Indian and Asian and Chinese, and it was like the United Colours of Benetton. That's exactly what I was about to say, actually. But there was essentially, it was an incredibly diverse, and I know Labour candidates and people who are in there who were pointing out how proud they were of it. Yeah. And to be honest,
the thing is, the Daily Mail, they presented it as a positive story, right? So that they couldn't get any trouble. But to me, there was definitely the idea behind it was to enrage their readers.
If you read the story, it was presented in a positive. But if you read the headline with just the picture, it was clearly manufactured as a dig, just like. And
it was signalling to their readership.
It was actually,
these people don't represent you. These people do.
It was a dog whistle. That's it. And even then there was a lot of comments came off the back. It was just like, well, it's meant your political party's meant to represent the people of the UK. So how does that represent the people of the UK? It's like, dude, look at the Tories. They're all white, 60-year-old men. Yeah. That doesn't represent the UK at all.
And a Quentin Blake drawn as the fucking leader. So yeah, like to me, as much as they presented it as a positive, they were clearly trying to undermine Corbyn. And I think they've clearly decided to change tack because the the constant attacks against Jeremy Corbyn's character and whatever don't seem to be working. In fact, there's evidence in the most recent polling data that the Tories, that the Labour may have opened up about a 4-point lead over the Conservatives.
What's the radio station that has that fucking toad prick and also
LBC?
Yeah.
That was all I needed to know.
Yeah, there you go. They done a massive.
Although I think he's getting finished up. Like,
oh, good.
and for good, hopefully, in terms of his life.
Just fucking.
Oh, wait a sec. No, that's the second time that I've made jokes about murdering people. I'm kidding. Obviously, don't murder Nigel Farage.
But if you can direct him to the sea.
But if you all want to pray really hard for his death, I'm okay with that.
Jerry's not religious, so so if you don't want to pray for it, then you probably shouldn't be listening to us. I can't imagine there's that many religious people that listen to us. But interestingly, they done a poll. I was going to make a European Polish joke here.
I am joking, by the way. Don't pray for MD's death. That's awful.
Yeah, he is joking. This is a roundup episode. This is.
I'm drinking wine. I'm just throwing in nasty shit.
He's angry.
I don't like Nigel Farage.
He was hanging as well.
Oh, I was really hungover. I'm just back from my holidays. My wife had terrible food poisoning on the journey back.
So Jerry went out and got absolutely fucking shit faced.
That was a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Oh, a day later.
Within 24 hours.
I was celebrating your son's birthday.
Yeah, but I wasn't there.
Neither was he, but I was doing it.
So
that's how much I love him.
I'll let him know. Your Uncle Jerry totally forgot the evening. Where was going? So they ran a poll, and the results ended up being something staggering. Like, so now, granted, they have a captive audience. Right.
Yeah. And
right.
They're not going to get a good sample.
No, but there was actually, it was the largest poll I think they've ever ran. And the numbers suggested something. Again, we'll find the article, send it over to you for this. But the numbers suggested something in the region of only 16 to 20% said that they would vote for the Tories, and the rest of them said that they would vote for Labour. Now, granted, if it was on O'Brien's showtime, there probably was more Labour listeners, but I mean, judging by the fucking foaming psychos that sometimes phone in, there must be a reasonable percentage of Tories that are listening to that.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
But these polls can get hijacked, can't they? Like if somebody posts it up on Facebook or Twitter and says "fucking vote this way," you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying it's interesting. I would imagine if we had ran the same poll 5 years previous, you probably wouldn't have seen quite as
many.
Oh, quite as many people that were pro Corbyn.
The largest poll I've ever ran was Arthur Boric.
I knew. Like, I was wondering how we were going to get a poll joke.
I was going to go for Jackie Jakanowski, but he was quite wee, and Boric was fat as fuck by the time he left Celtic. Yeah, so I went for him. It's good, wasn't it?
Nice. What's next on the agenda? let's fucking.
What's next on the agenda is senior tax officials admit wealthy and famous given special treatment over financial crime. I don't know why the Express chose to write it like that, but they capitalise special treatment. To
be honest, I don't think we have to live in this very long. It's something that we've been going on about for quite some time. And what is essentially the scenario is, if you're rich, you don't have to pay tax. You don't get chased for tax. You'll not go to jail for tax. You'll not get as hard lines off of the HMRC if you've avoided tax, if you've not paid it properly. If you
won't go to jail.
You filed your taxes wrong.
Megabucks. It's written by the Express, so it's written in a tabloid stylist style. Megabuck celebrities and the super rich escape criminal trials and jail terms which ordinary people would face when they fiddle their tax, a top Inland Revenue official has revealed. So yeah, it's the first time that anybody at HMRC has on record admitted that this is standard practice.
He's barely a fucking whistleblower though, is he? I mean, like, I've got something to tell you. If you're really rich, you don't go to jail for avoiding your tax. We are aware of that.
Well, the claim was made by a senior representative from HMRC at an economic crime conference in Cambridge. So I don't know what the fuck he was thinking.
No, like, so we're talking about crime. So what do you do when you've got tax? Well, if you're loaded, fuck all. Well, can we get that on record?
Well, they've also sort of stated that they will privately settle. They won't do anything publicly. They won't put it through the courts because they don't want, obviously, any newspaper or publicity.
Like, you mean when like Jimmy Carr went to jail, or when like Gary Barlow went to jail, or when, you know, they just took off the top of my head? I think they had the same accountant.
Probably. But yeah, like the thing is, Jimmy Carr, none of what Jimmy Carr did was illegal, right? It wasn't tax avoidance.
No, he fiddled his taxes though.
It was tax evasion, no, wait a second.
No, it was tax avoidance.
It was tax avoidance, not tax evasion, right? So he put it all offshore. Now, Jimmy Carr, when he got caught, volunteered to pay that money as a gesture because he felt he should, and he felt that he'd done wrong. Only because he got caught.
I know.
Obviously.
I mean, I'm not taking away the fact that he did pay it, and
but
stuff,
he didn't have to.
But I just mean as an example of.
Whereas, I'm not sure if that's the case with Gary Barlow. I don't know the ins and outs of his case.
But if that was 10 grand for like Steve down the road,
they would have went to jail.
Or he would have at least.
Well, but again, only if it was actual tax evasion, they would have went to jail. Jimmy Carr wasn't found guilty of tax evasion. He didn't.
By the way, have you ever tried to get a hold of HMRC?
Yeah, loads of times.
Right, so in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I'm trying to fix tax stuff because obviously I was self-employed and now not self-employed. I'm trying to have this argument with them to say, but like, I'm not self-employed. You know what tax I pay now. You've known for fucking ages. So I'm trying to have that argument with them, and I phone them up and I go through the process on the phone, and then it says, we can't help you at this point, so we're just going to hang up, and then they just hang up.
But is it the automated thing where they say, what would you like to talk about?
Yeah,
please state what you would like to talk about. My fucking tax.
And then there's lots of things to do with tax. What is
that,
it?
folks?
Paying tax. I want to pay you tax. You would like to pay tax. Do you know you can do this online, or you can wait and you can talk to a person. So it's like,
if I could do this online, I would not be fucking going through this horrible, painstaking process.
I'm a fucking IT manager. I want to do everything online. I hate you people as a whole. I don't want to be fucking talking. But anyway, so it goes through that whole process, and then it says, we're really busy at the moment, we can't take your call. Please call back later. Hangs up.
Infuriating.
Well, like, HMRC better not fucking show up at my door looking for any money, because they're going to have a problem.
Like, voice recognition famously does not handle Scottish accents well.
We'll put up the Burniston sketchy. We'll put it up. Yeah.
11. Aye. But we, so whenever I was in Dubai, I was like trying to phone HMRC to sort something out with my national insurance, I think, and it gets you, once you get past that bit, once you're like, what would you like to talk about? National insurance. Eventually gets to tell them your national insurance number, and I was like,
don't say it out.
No,
I thought you were just about to start saying it. It was just like, Jerry, please don't. I'm going to have to edit that out.
But every time I said it, they would repeat it back to me wrong, but it was never wrong the same way either. You know what I mean? So I'd have to do it again. I had to do it about 10 times, and every time it was wrong. Eventually, I think they allow you to speak to an actual real person. It was fucking infuriating. So yeah, I know what it's like having to deal with HMRC.
So imagine,
I used to work for them as well.
I'm sure I knew that.
Like, I worked at Centre One in East Kilbride, like for a
somebody else did as well, didn't he?
We know a few folk who work. Well, I know one person certainly that works there that you know.
We'll talk about this. Right, well, I might need to go through that path to get hold of him, because getting a hold of him any other way is incredibly down. I've phoned him 3 times. I mean, 3 times just told me they're too busy, and I have to try again, and it just hangs up on me. That actually happened, and it's like I want to sort out this whole scenario with these.
The weird thing is as well, like, if you speak to somebody, they'll tell you one thing. You speak to somebody else the next day, they'll tell you something completely different, and you just keep phoning until you get the answer you want, and they do the thing that you want them to do. Essentially, it's fucking mental. It's a really disorganised organisation. Different departments don't contact or speak to each other, and don't, like, there's no interconnectedness at all there. It's mental. And
then if you get to the rich person department, they just go, fuck it.
Right.
Fuck it.
You always like, half of what you actually do, and just give you something, we'll say anymore about it.
No, did they give me 100 grand?
But I mean, again, it's ideological. It's the way this entire country is set up.
Capitalism. Pew, pew, pew.
Well, I mean, fuck.
Trickle down economics. Pew, pew, pew.
Capitalism, you know, is probably we're probably stuck with capitalism, right, for the foreseeable future. Like,
I know, I make jokes. I don't know. Like,
but you can have capitalism which isn't just set up to make the wealthy wealthier and fuck everybody else.
I hear what you're saying.
Just what we have right now.
Gulags, Jerry. I hear what you're saying.
I'm just saying a bit of social democracy,
That's
man.
what I said, gulags.
You know, Jeremy Corbyn's pegged as some sort of fucking radical for basically just suggesting policy which is fucking normal in most other countries.
Social democracy, is that not a Guns N' Roses album?
No, it's Chinese democracy. It's an oxymoron. So is
so is Tories and austerity and trickle down economics.
Yeah. I don't like the Tories much. You might
probably guessed that from this episode, certainly. We're very pro-Tory.
But yeah, so like there's just another example of an institution in the UK which is set up to deal with rich people and poor people differently.
But that's it. So you have the rich that don't have to go through the whole process that poor people have to go through. So see if you have 100 grand in the bank and you have fiddled your taxes and you've not paid 50 grand of tax in your life, you'll probably go to jail for that, or at least have money and proceeds arrested to sort that scenario out. Whereas if you're worth 10 million quid and you've not paid 2 million quid in taxes, they'll settle it quietly to make sure that nothing happens.
Well, also, like if you're a limited company, if you are able to set up a limited company, which you need to have income over a certain amount, I can't remember exactly what it is, it might be £50,000 a year, then you can basically remove any financial comeback to yourself from the situation entirely, because you put everything through your business, and if your business owes £50,000 of corporation tax and you can't pay it, you just liquidate the business and they cannot come for your personal assets because they are not owned by the company and they are a completely separate entity. That is why limited companies exist.
That's why me and you get registered limited companies.
No, but
I know.
But so again, the whole system is set up to make things easier for people with more money.
Absolutely is. I mean, like, see, for the people who are listening to us who have never worked in a limited company or self-employed and stuff, see, when I was working for a limited company, my tax that I paid was less than your tax that you paid. So see, if you worked in like McDonald's, you paid proportionately, percentage-wise, of your wages more money to tax than I had to pay as a limited company, because I had a lesser tax rate and I had to get paid like fucking directors' fees and shit like that before tax and all sorts of weird shit.
Dividends.
All sorts of shit that happens that then means that the money that goes into my bank, and I mean, I only worked as a contractor for the 3 months while I was going between different jobs and I was looking for the type of job that I wanted to go into full time again with. So I set myself up as a limited company to do that. But in that time, that's how the tax worked. It was essentially I paid a smaller percentage of tax on the money that was left over. There was a smaller amount of money that was left over by the time that payments and stuff were. It's just a fucked up situation. Like,
flip side of that is that you don't have the same workers' rights as you do.
You don't have any. If you don't work, then you don't get paid. So if you want to take a fucking 2-week holiday, that 2-week holiday suddenly costs you your daily rate times 14, and then suddenly your holidays are never worth it, because you look at holidays, it's like, oh, the holiday doesn't cost me $2,000 all in to go away and be there with the family and everything. It cost me $2,000 plus 2 weeks daily rate on top of that, and then suddenly your holiday costs, twice or 3 times as much, depending on how much you're getting paid, but that holiday costs you substantially more. So it's...
But again, like, the UK employment system is set up for this to exist. Like, this exists within various industries, and it makes things... There's less responsibility for the employers, so they gain quite a lot out of it. They might be paying slightly more to the person they're employing, but they don't have to give them any rights, and they don't need to give them any notice. They can get rid of them basically whenever, depending on the terms of the contract. But they don't have the same rights that a PAYE and full employee would have. You've also got the whole 0-hour contracts thing going on in the UK at the moment, which Gordon Brown was a bit of a proponent of, which I guess we weren't supposed to be talking about him right now, but we may as well just go on to Gordon Brown.
It's fucking bell end. So for those who aren't aware, Gordon Brown didn't cause any problems at all, according to Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown essentially had no involvement in the financial crisis that occurred 2008.
So yeah, basically this is from a piece that Bella Caledonia had put up about him that I was reading, and it was basically the guy who wrote it is a dude called What's his name? Jamie Maxwell, and he was essentially saying that in two separate puff piece interviews, one with the Guardian and one with the BBC, Gordon Brown issued a series of stark claims and denunciations. He said the world is leaderless, is sleepwalking towards a second economic crash. He said that New Labour did not know what was going on in Britain's financial sector in up to 2008. He said Tory austerity was a mistake. Politicians must resist retreating into nationalist silos of populism and protectionism.
The problem is, some of that is correct.
Well, I mean, basically, all of it is correct. Like, there's.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if
that's not true, actually.
New Labour definitely knew what was going on.
I mean, yeah, he's right in saying that Tory austerity was a mistake. He was right about nationalism. He's probably right about an economic crash.
Definitely.
Because we have learned absolutely zero lessons from the first one and have carried on fucking as if it didn't happen. But a lot of what he says is totally fucking whitewashing history and making claims which patently aren't true about his own role and Labour's role in the financial crisis. So in 2001...
I mean, he might have not seen what was happening.
Because he's only got one eye.
It could have been happening over there.
That's mean.
I know, but he totally fucking shafted the country. Like, I mean,
listen, dude, it's bad enough he doesn't get to see 3D films. He can't do magic eye pictures. I don't think he needs us also taking the piss out of him for being a one-eyed Scotsman who likes to fuck people while putting his glass eye in their mouths. That's the rumour.
The Jerry started.
Libel drink. That's definitely libel.
Shit, man.
That's just a joke. So
you said that about 4 times in a sentence. Don't kill and Gordon Brown Disney fuck people with his eye in their mouth.
I mean, he might.
Don't be praying for
he
people.
He might do that though. He genuinely might do that.
I mean,
we just don't have any evidence at all that that's what he does. But he might.
Aye, right. But he might fuck people and eat a kebab off their back.
Do you hear that?
That's what I've heard.
He has been infernal, to be fair. So in 2001, he doesn't do that either.
I have to go to work in Dunfermline, man. Please.
Listen, mate, you've slagged off nearly every fucking town and city in this entire country.
But no Dunfermline. No stupid.
I thought you were Inverkeithing.
It's the next. It's.
Can I name your company as well? I'm joking.
No. Because if you do, I'll name yours. Things will get much worse for you than it will me.
I don't you know who I'm working for right now, though.
You can take a stab in the dark. Let's not fucking play.
So in 2001, the Blair-Brown government established a new financial services authority designed to streamline regulatory constraints on the City of London and consolidate the UK's global competitive advantage. The FSA swallowed up 9 separate bodies into a single agency in order to provide, as Brown boasted at the time, this is a direct quote, not only light but limited regulation of British banks, right? So that's 7 years prior to the financial crisis. They deliberately set up the Financial Services Authority to give light and limited regulation to banks to allow them to fucking do what they wanted to do, basically.
So we read between the lines here, what happened was the bankers approached them and said, we would like to do anything we fucking want. We'd like to give the world a good hard shafting. Can you make this so? Here's a big bag of gold coins.
Furthermore, right, it says here that in 2009 the FSA head, a guy called Adair Turner, which is 2 surnames, told a parliamentary committee that the agency had come under political pressure to further loosen restrictions on financial institutions. That's a quote from him. There was a philosophy rooted in political assumptions which suggested the key priority was to keep it light rather than to ask more questions, he said. So there's definite evidence that Labour certainly contributed to
They operated
financial crisis.
They operated the military's no questions about gaze policy, but essentially in banking, just like, well, if we don't ask any questions, we can't be told that we're doing anything wrong.
Yeah. Just fire away. We still make money. Yeah. Everything's going up. I don't see how this could possibly fail.
I just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger without any problem at all. Like a balloon with too much air.
And this is what Brown told the City of London in June 2007. He said, I want to continue to work with you in helping you to do your job, listen to what you say, recognising your international success is critical to that of Britain's overall, and considering together the things that we must do to maintain our competitiveness, enhancing a risk-based regulatory approach, maintaining our competitive tax regime and keeping our main rate of corporation tax the lowest in the G8.
Literally within a year, shit got real.
Yeah.
Gordon Brown.
So, I mean, that's the left-wing fucking Labour government that was in there under Blair.
Let's use that term loosely.
Yeah. Margaret Thatcher described Blair's government as her greatest success, and there's not a lot of evidence that fucking Brown changed very much when he came into power. In terms of austerity, he's also, like, if you look at Labour's 2010 manifesto, they said that deficit reduction would be the government's overriding priority. They pledged a series of tough choices on national finances, including 15 billion worth of efficiency savings, 11 billion worth of operational efficiencies, a public sector pay cap, welfare reform, an increase in national insurance contribution, and 20 billion worth of privatisations or asset sales by 2020. So they were proposing austerity too.
Interestingly, I was given an article from one of our friends who was reading it over the week that showed that for the last 70 years, if you look at Tory spending and borrowing, and you look at Labour spending and borrowing, that in every term of the Labour spending, essentially the borrowing the borrowing becomes less than the spending. Like, so essentially, every Labour government that's existed in the last 70 years
has done a better job of balancing the books.
Has done a better job of balancing the books, whereas the Tories have continually risen with every Tory government that's ever come in, even though what we are sold is that Labour just borrow and borrow and borrow to stick money into things without any return on it. It's actually, if you look at the numbers, it shows that it's the opposite. Essentially, the Tories just borrow and borrow and borrow.
But do you think that that's a function of the criticisms that are labelled at both parties and their desire to overcompensate for that, perhaps?
I mean, possibly. I think the concern that you'll always have is that the Tories and the right-wing Labour government under Tony Blair, but the Tories are consistently avoiding stuff like high-end corporation tax and business tax, which means they're bringing in less money, which means that there is a baseline figure that has to be spent by default in the country. So if you're not bringing in that money because you're allowing people to avoid corporate tax, you have to borrow from somewhere to hit that baseline before you then improve the country or do anything. And every government, no matter how soulless and heartless they are, has the intention of improving some components of the country, because it means that they inevitably make more money or go into business at the other side of it when they leave being in government.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
There's like a massive issue at the Treasury at the moment, for example, because the Tories have pledged, I believe, an extra 20 billion of spending on the NHS.
Yep.
And they've still not found where exactly they're going to get this money from. And there's talk of basically changing the pensions funding, and like, because we have a pension shortfall as it is. Like, there's a pension deficit worldwide of a ridiculous amount of money. I can't remember the exact amount. I'll stick some articles up, but it's actually potentially worthy of an episode in and of itself, because there's
more old people than there is old money.
Yeah, and it's also like it's potentially the biggest fucking global financial crisis, like just sitting there waiting to happen. It's the biggest financial issue of our generation and future generations, and nobody's really doing anything about it. It's just kind of being ignored and allowed to accumulate and increase and get bigger. I mean, essentially, by the time it comes to fucking our pensionable age and our state pension, like, fuck knows, retirement age could be fucking 80, the way things are going, because it just keeps going up and up and up and up. And again, you've got a situation whereby the people who are benefiting from having had like full salary pensions from, you know, the public service, or you know, good pensions from private companies which just simply do not exist anymore, they are the ones who tend to be voting in order to prevent people like you and me or younger generations from reaping the benefit of those things. They are the people who are also voting against the generation who had that free access to fucking further education, are voting in order to prevent us from receiving that and generations below us from receiving that. Like,
do you know, kind of on par, because you're talking about the older generation voting, it brings us on to a wee bit of Brexit. I just wanted, because there was an article today that I read that's just reminded me, which is, have you seen that Unilever have announced that they want to fuck off to Holland? Essentially, they want to move their head office over to Amsterdam because they have 2 head offices. They want to get rid of their UK head office, move over to Amsterdam, but their head shareholders are saying they don't want it to happen because, so the article that was published said the makers of Marmite want to move to Holland. Now, see, to be honest, I think we're selling Unilever short if we just class them as the makers of Marmite. They're fucking Unilever. They make everything. Marmite is totally irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Probably a very small share of their market.
I fucking love Marmite, man.
Marmite's made from the waste product from the beer industry in Yorkshire.
That's probably why I like it so much.
But, I didn't know.
I like it more now.
See, I didn't know that until today. It was like these guys were talking about it.
Yeast extract.
I'm sure he said Yorkshire, but certainly in England, it's one of the big beer production areas. That's why I presumed
it's full
it
of
was
niacin,
Yorkshire,
thiamine, riboflavin, and vitamin K. It's really good for you.
Ketamine and
I like it on
is that not
toast.
vitamin K?
I like it on toast.
Got ketamine.
Yeah.
Makes your toast quality in the streets weird.
Makes eating your toast quite difficult.
I mean, the first couple of bites are great. The second couple of bites terrifying. And then the fourth bite, you don't know what's happening. Killed like a motherfucker with your toast. Anyway, so this is what they were talking about, where they're talking about wanting to leave the UK, and people are just like, well, we're not letting them leave the UK because Marmite still gets created in the UK. And it's like, this company's fucking Unilever, you bellend. They literally make...
They'll just get the stuff and ship it out. Or do they think they'll stop making Marmite?
Well...
Because honestly, right...
See if Brexit
I've been fairly indifferent about Brexit up until now, but if I find out that it's going to stop me getting my fucking Marmite, I'm going to be proper raging. I'll be out in the streets. Just
fucking bring us our Marmite. Guy, good Jerry, that's a fine poster. That's one of the big problems.
I'm gonna paint. What I'll do is I'll paint a fucking massive picture of a jar of Marmite, but I'll do it with my own feces as some sort of protest.
No, paint a portrait of fucking Theresa May out in Marmite, like a giant one.
But that suggests that some people love her. Some people hate her.
I think some people do love her. Like, few.
How could you love that?
Few. Oh, she's got a husband.
I know, but he doesn't love her.
Does he not?
He can't possibly.
How should he hear that?
But, well,
it's a scathing comment right there.
Because
he doesn't love her.
Because I've A, looked at her, and I've B, much more importantly, because looks aren't that important overall, I've heard her speak.
Well, Jerry, I'll ask you this. Has there never been a time you've thought, I want to shag a spitting image doll?
Yeah.
Well, there you go then. So that's how you could love her, based on her looks, because she looks like the spitting image doll of Margaret Thatcher.
She doesn't really.
She does quite a bit. Have you seen them side by side?
I'd love to see a spitting image doll of Theresa May. I mean, I literally think it would just be exactly what Theresa May looks like, because she fucking looks horrific.
Why, with the modern climate that we're in politics, with Jeremy Corbyn, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, why is there not a spitting image?
There should be, yeah.
I mean, they all look like spitting image characters, and they all act like spitting image characters.
We should have a word with Ian Hislop and see if he'll fucking start it up. He should be the man behind that, I think.
I love the way you drove that in there as if, like, you know,
because we're always kicking about him.
It's happening, Jerry. It's happening, Ian. Like, we were just talking about it. And
we've got so much in common.
Did you listen to the new episode? It was just a guy, boys. I was just thinking about it. I was going to phone you about this spitting image idea. I thought we'd give you some fucking creator rights towards it since you came up with the idea.
I guarantee he's not on Twitter.
Ian Hislop?
Aye.
Private Eye will be, though.
Aye, but he's not. And I bet he has absolutely zero to do with Private Eye on fucking Twitter as well.
Then we could email him.
I mean, I don't know exactly what that question is. Do I think it's possible for us to email Ian Hislop? Yes, definitely is.
Do you think it is possible for us to? Do you think that, like, as in he has a email address that is available to us in some way, shape or form?
Oh, we could find it out.
I bet we could find it out.
Why did you point at me like that?
Because I bet we know
somebody who'll have it?
Yes.
I bet we do.
Very do.
Right. Anyway.
So anyway, I don't know where we're going. Marmite, Unilever. So anyway, Unilever are going to leave the UK or want to leave the UK, but their shareholders are putting up an argument just now to say that they're not allowed to leave the UK. Unilever will leave the UK though, because the shareholders have got no fucking say in this in the grand scheme of things.
So do you remember
shareholders may be forced to just sell their shares on the UK stock market?
Do you remember prior
to
profit. The independence referendum on Scotland in 2014, there was a lot of talk of companies potentially leaving Scotland if it voted for independence.
Yes.
And everybody, not necessarily you, but lots of people said, well, that won't happen.
I mean, essentially, I absolutely didn't say that 100%. In fact, I argued till I was blue in the face at why would they fucking stay? I think was my actual argument. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm just putting that out there. People. I've just noticed quite a lot of
similarities.
Hypocrisy from both sides, by the way, because people who are massively against Scottish independence are massively in favour of Brexit, and
for the most part.
No, I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying there are people who are massively in favour of Brexit, and a lot of the arguments they make for Brexit are exactly the same things that they argued against in terms of Scottish independence. And the flip side of that, loads of people who are in favour of Scottish independence use arguments that were made against Scottish independence when they're talking about Brexit. So, there's not a lot of consistency in a lot of people's train of thought on this, in my opinion. So
can I give my view regarding that? Because obviously, where I stood, and for the listeners who weren't aware, for the vast majority of the entirety of the Scottish independence referendum, I was against the Scottish independence referendum because I was...
It was an insufferable prick online, to be honest.
I was very pro EU, as I still am, by the way. Just saying. So anyway, I was very pro EU, and my arguments was always there was no guarantee we would have entry into the EU in short term anyway, and that would have a knock-on effect for things like, I don't know, trade and having to have trade deals, and see pretty much everything that people are saying right now is going to happen for Brexit. That's what I said was going to happen to Scotland. Anyway, just the high horse there was difficult to get off.
The thing is, obviously, if the UK leaves the EU, then that argument's no longer there to be made. Exactly.
I mean, but at the time, and that was my argument. Now, I did actually vote for independence with the argument that we did have a chance to get back into the EU, and the chances for us to be able to shape our future when we were a smaller number of people voting, we would have better control of our country, which was the reason that I decided to make a change.
Less likelihood of a Tory government.
And less likelihood of a Tory government. In fact, zero likelihood of a Tory government. So, but anyway, that's entirely irrelevant for the most part. But from my view, this is where I stood before. So what I'm seeing happening in Brexit UK or pre-Brexit UK is what I expected to happen in Scotland, and more importantly, what I 100% expected to happen in Brexit. Anyone who doesn't understand this is where the country's going to go, because the basic way that I put it to someone today when they were talking about the Marmite thing was, you have two situations here. You are a company registered in Britain, and you trade out of Britain to a market of 215 million people, and you have a local market of sub 60 million people. Or you're a company in Europe who has a local market of 250 million people, and you trade into a market of sub 60 million people. Now, you would have to be really stupid to not see which one of the two of them, depending on what it is that you trade. Granted, if you do most of your trade in the UK, it'd be slightly different. But if you're a worldwide company that produce like Unilever, if you don't know what Unilever produce, it's like everything. Aye. Unilever are like...
Including Marmite, it turns out.
Unilever are like...
Did you know, Paul, that Marmite is made from the waste product of beer in Yorkshire?
I've heard. So Unilever are like a company that on par with Coca-Cola and Nestle. They are a super massive mega conglomerate that own 1 million different companies.
Is that not a Muse album?
Super massive mega conglomerate it was. That own a whole pile of different companies. And because of that... That's so annoying. That's it. Music is now wasted for all of you that now listen, because that's what
we've done that joke before.
So Yeah, so the thing is, because of what they trade, because they make, because like they're like a Johnson & Johnson type company, you know what I mean? They make like lots of different products. They make both.
The two twins with the bowler hats.
That's what they make talcum powder now. See where they got their bowler hat cash.
I thought they did that home pride stuff.
Aye, that as well.
Oh, right, cool.
Home pride, gay pride, and talcum powder. That was the three that they done.
Cool.
So because of that, it makes perfect sense for them to leave, right? And companies like that, it makes perfect sense for them to leave, because right now, if it looks like there's a no deal Brexit, they don't know what their trade tariffs are going to be in and out. And if they've got a larger market in the EU and they trade into the UK, they can absorb that more than the opposite direction if they have equal trade between all the countries. So this is what we're expecting. So you have to look at this logically. That's what they have been presented. So that's what they are going to do from a business point of view. For anyone to argue anything else, this is just Project Fear. People that know things don't know things. Why should I listen to specialists and experts? And this is just Ramoners. No, shut up, you fucking muppet. Like, this is basic business understanding. This is a basic understanding of economics.
I think global companies, though, like they're still, the likes of Unilever are still going to want to be able to sell their products in the UK. They're still going to have a base in the UK. They probably have headquarters all around Europe anyway, so it won't make that much difference to someone like that. Where it may make a difference is in manufacturing industries and people who are manufacturing products in the UK, because obviously, why would you build something in the UK if you're looking to sell it in the EU? Because then you'll have to deal with all the fucking red tape and tariffs and everything that's going to be involved in that. It's far easier to just build it on mainland Europe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that companies won't still obviously have offices in the UK or trade in the UK or build things in the UK for the UK market. But the problem is, if you're building stuff, so if there is no, for example, so head offices, more so head offices and production offices. Production offices usually build them in places that are beneficial for resources and the likes, you know what I mean? Like they either have the manufacturing equipment or they have the natural resources or something available to them to be able to produce a product in that specific area.
Or they have a beneficial rate of corporation tax, or they have a highly educated workforce, which are a specialised
skill set, like shipbuilding and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? As it was
IT or fucking whatever.
So those things won't change. But see, head offices, essentially your registered premises. If your choice is to be registered in the EU or registered in the UK and you trade worldwide, you know what your trade is on the 1st of April for the rest of the world right now. If you're in the EU, you don't know what it is right now in the UK. So you have to make the decision where your company is registered. And if that means you have to move your head office and sack 300 people in London and move them to Berlin, then that's what you're going to do, because you're not going to take that risk.
What I'm not really seeing or hearing being talked about much is the potential tax deficit from likes of VAT and corporation tax that this could cause if we do see a massive flight of industry or even just headquarters and stuff from the UK elsewhere. We could see a massive shortfall in our income via business taxes.
Yeah, I mean, there's another knock-on effect that we're definitely going to see, which is smaller companies. So companies that are in the kind of 50 to 100 to 200 employee type companies, a relatively small company that produces something in the UK that trades out to the whole of the EU. One of the things that nobody's really talking about is the fact that on the 1st of April, if there is no deal, right, there will be tariffs in place. But no one will expect those companies to have the money then and there to pay for all these tariffs if they are trading at hundreds of thousands of units per, and you know, I mean, they can't possibly have that. They can try and put contingency in place right now, which means there will likely be something set up by the government to offset some of that for a short period of time, where there will then be a backlog that they have to pay it back, and they will essentially, for lack of a better description, some kind of loan-based scheme for companies that are able to apply for it to be able to make sure that their tariffs are all being paid for in advance. But that means that there has to be that money. I mean, essentially what I'm saying is there has to be a fucking lump of money somewhere, be it from the government pockets, be it from business pockets, be it from tax, be it from somewhere. There has to be a lump of money that will be able to help offset any of the financial deficit with the trade, because we don't have any trade deals yet.
Well, also, in order to attract business and keep business here, we're going to have to be offering some incentive to companies, which will likely come via tax breaks or some sort of funding incentive or infrastructure, like help building factories or help with grants from the government, etc., etc. So it's going to cost us either way.
Well, like, so see Audis. Audis are like, I think, possibly the most purchased car in the UK at the present moment.
They're good cars.
Certainly up there. Now, Audi...
If Audi want to sponsor us, I'm totally cool with that. Vorsprung Dutch technique.
Aye, man, fucking I'll see all
nothing
those
to
words.
do with your Vorsprung Dutch technique, you know.
It's
But life.
nothing to do with the joggers that go round and round. I don't want to be sponsored by joggers, by the way. Just Audis.
I wouldn't mind being sponsored by Blur.
I mean, I'd be alright. Or even the Gorillas.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
The Rwandan ones or the cartoon-based musical.
No, I was thinking more of the
like the soldiers,
aye,
like
the terrorists,
jungle warfare.
Aye, exactly. One man terrorist is another man's Jeremy Corbyn supporter. I think that's the saying, isn't it?
That's nice. We'll get that in a t-shirt.
I kind of think I will.
Really?
And Corbyn in a mask, right? Like, so Corbyn in his tweed in a mask.
Well, that's some good publicity for Jeremy.
Aye.
I mean, it's better than most publicity.
Aye, man. Like, it's better than what he's fucking doing at the present moment. Anyway, I've totally now fucking lost my train of thought of where I was going to go with that.
Sorry, that's my fault.
What did you say? Audi. Audi.
Yes.
Right, so Audi want to trade into the UK, right?
Right.
And say the standard cost of an Audi is 20 grand, right? For
Okay.
the end
Let's
user,
say that then.
for an end user entry, right? They are going to still want to sell that car to make the profit they were making off that. Say they were making 10 grand off that profit, right? So if it then costs them 2 grand or 3 grand for every car to come into the UK, fuck man, even if it costs 500 quid for every car to come into the UK, they're going to be wanting to sell it for an extra 500 quid or an extra 3 grand or an extra 2 grand, right?
Yeah, they're not going to see the profits drop.
So that then means that either
Things get more expensive.
or our government have to offset those tariffs to make sure that there's still money circulating in. None of those two situations are good for the UK, because Audi will just say, no, we're going to ship the cars for that amount.
Either our cars will get more expensive or our taxes will. That's our point of view. But from Audi's point of view, they'll say our cars now cost the price plus the tariff, and that's now your fucking problem, because people are still going to buy Audis. I'm saying so either the cars will cost more for us personally because Audi do that, or the government will offset it, but they'll have to find that money from somewhere.
And they'll have to find the money from somewhere. It'll probably be from us. Yeah, it'll probably be from our taxes. So that will definitely happen. And see people who say things like, oh, but they won't, they'll just have to take a profit loss. They won't. And do you know how I know that they won't? Because see, right now, if you go out a fucking...
Because they have shareholders.
See, if you go into any street in the UK...
Do you know what shareholders never say? Give me less money, please.
Go and look in any street in the UK, count how many fucking Range Rovers and Land Rovers are driving about, and work out how many people you know can afford to be buying a 70 grand car, right, in your street. The answer is not that many of them. So they still take out finance to be seen in their Range Rover, and by the same basic principle,
because they're daddies,
because they're pelters, because Range Rovers break down a lot. I hope we don't get fucking sponsored by them. I don't even want to be sponsored by them. Jaguar, on the other hand, will quite happily take a sponsor. But
I'm no nah.
I'm no nah.
Fucking
like, I mean, what I'm saying is
build quality on Jaguars has went down massively since the Indians started making them. Like,
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you look at me like that? That's a fact.
All I'm saying is, though, is so because there's lots of people in what is essentially fucking 200 grand houses. If you're in London, that's what we up here call like a 2.5 million quid house. but if you're in our area, you know what I mean, that you're in a 200 grand house and your car is worth more than a quarter of the worth of your house, you probably can't afford to be buying that car, but you still drive about in that car because you're a fucking bellend and you want to be seen in a fucking white Range Rover. But that's how they know that people will still buy the car if they add an extra fucking couple of grand on it. And because of that, they don't give a fuck, because they'll still sell the cars. And see the misbelief that you will see on Facebook of people saying, we'll just not buy them. You will. You still buy them.
I'm not sure that's a word.
What?
Misbelief. Maybe it is, actually.
Misbelief.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, we'll go with it. I like it. Misbelief is my favourite Mr. Woman.
Anyway, we went on.
Mr. Woman? I'm trying to say Little Miss Belief.
That's Canada you're thinking of there. Jordan Peterson's pal, Mr. Woman.
Little Miss Belief.
I'll fucking... Do you know who I really like and who I definitely don't want to any harm to come to whatsoever? Jordan Peterson. He's lovely. So...
Libel.
Drink. So, coming back to Gordon Brown... remember him?
Brown.
We were talking Gordon Brown, texture like sun. He's apparently. I mean, what does that even? Is that the words, by the way?
Well, he's got a texture like sun bleached cow.
Is that the words to Golden Brown?
I'm going to have to Google it now, Anna.
I think it is.
It doesn't make any sense.
Brown,
it can't be.
Texture. Do you know what it's about?
Heroin.
Yeah. Good.
Good. Jerry says heroin. Good.
I put that in a t-shirt.
Golden Brown. Good. Heroin. The game.
Heroin. All right.
So is that new 2 t-shirts? Heroin. The
Good.
game.
Heroin good. Heroin good.
Heroin good. And one man terrorist is another man Corbyn supporter.
Yeah, okay.
Right, cool. I'll get onto those t-shirts this week.
Is there going to be a pig on there too? Can you? Do you think you could alter the pig to make it look a bit smacked out?
I could do like I could fill it with a picture of poppies.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It'll be a heroin pig, won't it?
Yeah. Nice.
Look out for the heroin pig coming your way.
That's what they say. You know, is that like the Easter Bunny?
The heroin pig.
So
Golden Brown texture like sun lays me down with
in my mind she runs
throughout the night. No need to fight. Never a frown with Golden Brown. Clearly, never seen anybody on heroin.
Always a frown with Gordon Brown. Speaking of Gordon Brown and his reference to nationalism and populism. On a trip to Tanzania in 2005, he told reporters that the UK should celebrate its colonial past. In 2009, he argued that British jobs should be reserved for British workers. And as recently as June of this year, he was calling for a crackdown on immigration as part of a broader package of policies to help address people's anxieties over Brexit.
People forget that he changed his name from Himmler, or Gordon Himmler, and he just changed it. Yeah. Jesus, he's a bit white powery, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he said some questionable things, certainly. He also called that woman a bigot. She was a fucking bigot, by the way. I'd like to put that on record. That woman was a fucking bigot. She was a fucking bigot. And he got caught on mic saying it, and it seemed to ruin his fucking election, basically.
And it's weird.
But she was a fucking bigot.
Because there was tons of other fucking things that could have ruined his election, because he's a fucking absolute fucking wet blanket of a man who doesn't deserve to be fucking Prime Minister.
So one last quick run through a story before we chat about the last thing that we want to talk about. As the Saudi Aramco IPO has now collapsed, apparently. So,
mind that thing we done an episode on?
Yeah.
It's went to fuck.
So Saudi Arabia's decision to shelve plans to list the state oil company Saudi Aramco has happened, basically. Despite protestations from Riyadh that it's postponing rather than abandoning the initial public offering, it seems clear King Salman has overruled Mohammed bin Salman, his heir. So they were planning to sell 5%. You know, if you don't know any of this, listen to our HSBC episode. I was pretty happy. It was a good episode now.
It was great.
So it's episode 7. You should listen to that, and we talk quite a bit about it. But it was the planned sale of the 5% of the company. It was going to be the biggest IPO, national public offering ever in world history. It was a linchpin of MBS is Mohammed bin Salman. It's easier to say MBS. Vision 2030 program to turn Saudi Arabia from an oil-dependent state into a private investment-driven economy.
That's not machine bun Sally, is it? Much like machine guns Kelly.
Machine bun Sally.
Yeah, because he's MGK. So
nice.
I'm just checking.
No, it's not. Although he did do a diss track about Eminem. Mohammed bin Salman. It was mainly revolved about him not being Muslim.
It was mostly in Arabic. So very, very tough.
Yeah, it's pretty niche.
I mean, in fairness, I believe that Eminem probably stands for many, 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 many things that Sunni Muslims are against?
What? Eminem?
I mean, I imagine he stands for many things that isn't very Qurani.
Eminem.
And that's the last of the win for Gerard.
By the way, I was speaking about that last night, I reckon. It was before I left the pub. So that was partly self-inflicted. Basically, the story, it's in the Financial Times. I'll post it up on the links. It's actually behind a paywall, but one of the things that we do on our Discord server, if you want to get involved in that, is we have an article dump in there.
Fuck a paywall, bitches!
Yeah, fuck a paywall, quite literally fuck a paywall. We offer the ability to read articles that are behind paywalls. We because of the podcast and because we like to read articles, we have subscriptions to just about every paid for newspaper in the world that's worth reading. So if there's a particular article that you see and you're a member of our Discord, just request it and we'll bang it up on the article dump.
Yeah, there's a room called Article Dump. You can go in there and make a request and we'll bypass that fucking article, that paywall for you.
Yeah.
Because fuck it.
So I'll put this up on the links. But it's basically saying that, the fact that it's collapsed is partly self-inflicted on MBS's behalf. It was him insisted that it was worth $2 trillion, and a lot of people saw that as a bit ridiculous. It meant that there was going to be scrutiny and disclosure requirements, which come with a public listing, an audited oil and gas reserves, and lots of things that...
Essentially, what's happened is he's shat it because he's looked at it and he's went, oh, if they come and check what we actually have and what we're doing and what our processes are, they're probably going to have some problems.
To be honest with you, my belief is that it will happen. It'll happen when the king dies, right? The king's not letting it happen right now. He wants it to happen, and he still wants it to happen, and he will still make it happen when he has the power to do it. But his dad's blocked it.
Basically. I mean, this is essentially...
Because he does believe in modernising the country.
That's not what it is, though. I mean, the reason that he wants to do it is because he's shitting himself, because at the present moment, oil is worth a lot. But...
It could be worth a lot more.
No, but what I mean is it's worth a lot, and he's shitting himself that in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, it will not be worth as much. And then he has to justify, he still has to have a fuck ton of money for all the frivolous expenses that he fucking throws through. So he needs money for it. And if he gets investment into it, that means he gets cold hard cash. It's like fucking money laundering with oil.
Holy shit, I actually didn't know what the oil price was at the moment. It's fucking nearly $80 a barrel. That's the most it's been since 2014.
Which is probably why his dad's just like, fuck it, we're rolling it, bitches.
Yeah. That's good for me. But
also explains why they weren't in that much of a rush to get you back onto the fucking rig.
But anyway, essentially, like fucking, there's a lot of talk in the article about the Palestinian question, and so essentially, MBS has cozied up to a large extent with Trump and Jared Kushner, but then obviously King Salman was not happy that Mr. Trump recognised Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved the US embassy there, which effectively ended Palestinian hopes of an independent state with occupied Arab East Jerusalem as its capital. MBS
has a more American and global ideology, whereas his father is still in, whether right or wrong, a more archaic mindset regarding the way that his country should be and the way that his country should be viewed around the world. And his son is, for all intents and purposes, and by the way, so is Trump, even though he pretends that he's not, is essentially a globalist and is interested in opening up his country to the rest of the world, and he needs money to do
Trump is only interested in his own fucking business.
I know that's what but what I mean is, like, I know that lots of people are just like, nationalism, America, and all that shit, but essentially Trump is a globalist. He's interested in
trading off the fact that he was president for the rest of his life and making lots of fucking money out of it.
And the same way that Theresa May became Prime Minister.
In the same way that Tony Blair has.
Aye.
He's a fucking multi-millionaire now.
Multi-war criminal.
Yeah. And most recently was in... where fucking Azerbaijan or something like that, fucking sorting out some deal for a fucking pipeline with, again, corrupt dictators. Yeah.
That's his bit. So now we're getting on to the big one?
Yeah, so the big one is
see, actually, if you take out all the things we've spoken about, this probably isn't that big one, to be honest. The big one that we're going to talk about is to do with a cartoon and some tennis.
Yeah, so Serena Williams, you may or may not have seen, was recently caricatured in the Sydney Herald, I believe.
Oh, it was an Australian paper. I didn't actually
by a
confirm who it was.
Cartoonist called Mark Williams, not the snooker player, who has quite a long running history of caricature.
He's a caricature newspaper artist who's renowned in the field of caricature. You know, that kind of
political satire,
wanky political satire comic shit that you would usually get in like the New Yorker or whatever.
He's mainly done a lot of Australian politicians. He's done some big ones with Trump, Obama at points. He has done quite a lot of sports people, Australian rugby players, Australian tennis players and stuff. He in particular did one about Mark Philippoussis being surly and acting like a bit of a brat as a tennis player and a prominent Australian tennis player. But most recently he came in for a lot of criticism because he did a drawing of Serena Williams post her US Open defeat to Naomi Osaka.
Now, before we talk about that, we have to go back. How far back? All the way back. And it goes a little something like this. But what we have to do is, we have to say, so the reason all this kicked off was because, so there's two things that we have to make clear. In tennis, there is still levels of sexism. Definitely. It does occur, right? There is levels of sexism. However, Serena Williams, and especially in this case, but regularly, acts like a grade A cunt. Now, so in this case, she acted like an asshole. And the umpire in question is known for being a stickler for the rules. The commentators made that clear before the event even occurred, that he is big on the rules, and she...
It's kind of his job.
And she had a tiff with him, and he read her the riot act and she got fucking fined. That's essentially the black and white of it.
and the reason that she was given a penalty point in the match was for her coaching her from the sidelines. Now, Serena Williams explicitly stated to the umpire that she was not being coached, and that was not true, and that did not happen. The coach said that he was coaching her from the sideline and was giving her hand signals and stuff like that. So that story is obviously conflicting. Serena Williams has previously been beaten by Naomi Osaka this year in Miami, I believe. So I think she could see which way the game was going, and it wasn't going her way, and she wasn't happy about it. Which, you know, she's a professional sportswoman. I think if you're a good loser, you're a bit of a loser generally. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the most talented and most successful sports people in the world are not great losers. They don't like to lose. However, in defeat, you should act with some grace and some kindness towards the person who's beat you. And, you know, I mean, she's made like just under £2 million, I think, in the last year or thereabouts, just in tennis. She's made a lot of money.
Very successful. She has a very successful tennis.
And she's came through a bit of a hard time.
And don't get me wrong though. Like I said, so like there has been things like when the Paris Open, she was told that she wasn't allowed to wear like the catsuit type thing that she wears, and they wanted her to wear like more traditional outfit. There's no reason for that. It's a bit assholey. That's just not moving with the times. That arguably is a bit sexist and assholey, right?
Sexy, but I think it's just traditional, isn't it? It's just the shite.
It's the only problem is traditionalism
that hangs around tennis. I would say golf is very similar.
It does. The only problem is
poncy. It's snobbery.
But basically, traditionalism regularly has a negative impact on women over men because traditionally they get treated worse, you know what I mean? So there is still these kind of undercurrents of kind of misogyny that exists in these sports, and so we're clear. See if you're playing tennis, see if you're playing squash, see if you're playing polo, see if you're playing golf, see most of the people who are around you, they're probably assholes. Do you know what I mean? Not that anybody that does those sports are assholes, but just at the highest level, like you have had to devote your life to a sport that you have to join a fucking club to be a member of, and it usually comes with
caveats.
Yes, and you know, financial implications and all the other things that go along with it. Do you know what I mean?
Barriers to make sure that we don't get any working class people.
Like, so we're clear, you'll very rarely find a couple of poor lads that are shit hot at fucking horse polo. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really happen. Funny story.
So,
you know, in Ireland they've all got like horses in their streets. Anyway, we'll get back to that.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Right. So there's been controversy in the past about male tennis players being paid more for winning competitions such as Wimbledon than female tennis players. What's your opinion on that?
Well, so there's two scenarios. So first, now they actually don't really now currently. The male tennis players play more rounds.
That would be my point.
Than female tennis players. Tennis players play 5. Female
best
tennis
of 5
players play
sets,
3.
Yeah.
So there is. I mean, if you
pro rata in terms of hours played, they're probably being paid equally then.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that you have to remember is Serena Williams herself has said that she wouldn't beat like the top 200 professional tennis players that in the male rankings.
Because they hit the ball harder and stuff like that.
I know, but what I mean is so to put it into perspective, like one of the best, arguably best women in the world has said that she wouldn't be able to beat like the top 200 ranked. In fact, the next one down, I believe, was 205. And I'm not making this up. He played against Serena Williams after playing around a golf and going for a couple of pints and still better.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was told this story at the weekend in the pub.
But do you have? Do we know that?
Campbell tell the story.
I'm not saying that I don't. But
we'll check for the sources. But anyway, but the point being, this was the point it came about because she had said
you're
this.
going to edit that out.
Probably. Unless it's true.
No, just the fact that you said it like that, off mic, like that.
I know, it's probably better that way, just in case it's not true.
All right, okay. Cool.
See what I'm saying? So I can find it. And,
we'll put a link on the website.
But yeah,
true.
But even if that part of it wasn't true, she has said that she couldn't beat the top 200, right? So that's by her own admission that she's not as good, but she doesn't have the ability to beat the top 200 men, right?
Yeah.
So we have to take that into account first. They also play less rounds. Now, one would argue that in a completely unsexist sport, men and women would just compete against each other.
Yeah. But I just don't think that's feasible in a lot of sports. Like,
I know, it's probably not. But
maybe in team games there's no reason why you couldn't have mixed teams. Like,
but the problem that like I said, the problem that you've got is if one of the best tennis player women in the world doesn't believe she can beat the top 200 male tennis players in the world, to then say I should be getting paid the same amount as them, like, is that fair?
Doesn't really stack up.
No, it doesn't stack up right now. But I believe female tennis players.
Also, I think it's essentially based on the crowd and the television ratings.
It does, and that's why I believe now Serena Williams does get paid pretty much the same as her male counterparts, because she brings in the same type of numbers, give or take. But the thing is, even at that, I believe they should be paid the same amount. They should be paid essentially per head for the amount of people that are watching it. Worked it out as whatever it is that they work it out. So they work out roughly how many people are going to be watching it and they get paid that, right? I have no problem with that. But by the same grounds, I don't believe that Serena Williams couldn't play 5 rounds of tennis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never really understood why they don't.
So I believe
it's sets, by the way. It's sets.
I know. It doesn't matter, right?
Just for accuracy.
No.
I actually do like tennis quite a lot.
So I don't understand why they don't play the same amount. No.
Which is probably why I ended up getting drawn into this argument at all, is because I am quite into tennis and I was aware of this, and like I saw a lot of people who don't give a fuck about tennis and don't know very much about tennis talking about it, you know.
So beyond all the sex, right, so beyond all of that, right, there is definitely sexism, right? But that doesn't take away the fact that in this case she acted like a dick, right? She got fined. I seen videos of people saying, look at all these men and the way that they've acted. All those men have got fined like fuck. To give you an idea, McEnroe is the one that people use as an example all the time because he acted like a grade A psycho. He was fined just under 69,000 US in his career. 2 separate occasions of 10,000 and various combinations
I'll put the list of
7
all
threes
of
and ones and stuff like that.
Fines. There's a lot of them.
But it's 69,000, just under 70,000. It's 69,500 or thereabouts.
And that was in an era where professional sports people got paid a hell of a lot less than they do now.
I mean, even if he had made in that period of time £6 million, it's still more than 1% of what you know what I mean. He's paid.
Pro rata, it was much more out of his pay than Serena Williams has had.
She got 13. She got 13 grand there,
Yeah.
And like I said, I think she done 1.9 million or something like that in the last year or something.
Yeah.
So it's not even. It's not even. I mean, in the nicest possible way, it's a lump of cash, but it's no.
However, I would say that I think there is a different language and response nowadays, because McEnroe kind of normalised bratish behaviour in tennis to the point that it's more generally accepted by male players now, and I don't think that's right. I think that anybody who acts in that way should be called out in it, because it's fucking pathetic,
I
quite
agree.
frankly.
But they do regularly get banned from matches or fines, right? So it's not like they don't get held accountable for their actions.
But it's not spoke about as much as the Serena one was.
But the reason that is because people made the Serena one an issue. Like,
I believe that a lot of what people took issue with in the way that Serena Williams behaved wasn't necessarily her conduct during the match, but her conduct post-match was appalling. She did not act gracefully towards the person who had rightfully and well beat her.
What do you mean, the person who actually thought she was getting booed?
Well, she was getting booed.
No, wait, what do you mean?
Well, like, the whole crowd were booing as she was like being presented with her trophy and stuff, and rather than, it was her first major tournament win in her tennis career. She has openly said previously that Serena Williams is her fucking tennis idol, right? And she was playing against her. It should have been a joyful, wonderful moment for her, and instead she spent the entire ceremony as she was being presented with her medal and her trophy in tears, because she was being booed by the crowd, and because Serena Williams frankly acted pretty graciously towards her, because Serena Williams still had a fucking face on her and still was acting like a fucking petty child when she was being given her runners-up medal.
So this is what happened, and then following that,
the cartoonist drew a picture of Serena Williams, which has been argued by many people uses a lot of racist tropes which were prevalent in old style cartoon depictions of black people, which were
if
used.
You've seen the old Disney cartoons where like the tribes people are boiling Donald Duck in a pot, or if you've seen old Kiora adverts, or you've seen there's a couple of classic Australian cartoon that has the tropes on with reference to Aborigines, a kind of straggly, wiry hair tied up high above their head, big lips, big hips, big...
Tintin in the Congo would be like...
Yeah, that type of thing, you know, like big paler lips, big ears, large noses, big hips, large arses, like I said, wiry hair tied up above their head, kind of like... I mean, what will always be seen because of the use of it, because of the cultural insensitive way that it was used for a long time as racist, has been connected to racism. Right. One of the best ways to summarise it.
And it shows her with her racket broken on the ground, I believe, if I remember correctly, a dummy on the floor. And her jumping on top of it. And her jumping up and down. She's painted as a very masculine character, big muscles and stuff like that. She has, as Paul says, kind of wiry, bushy hair, and it's certainly exaggerated the size of her lips somewhat, right? So it looks a bit, well, it's a caricature, right? So I would say that it's certainly in keeping with his house style. It looks as you would expect a caricature of Serena Williams to look. I saw it and I instantly recognised it as Serena Williams, which is kind of the fucking point of a cartoon caricature, right? I knew exactly who it was. Now, one thing that he's received criticism for, Mark Williams, the illustrator, and I would entirely agree with this, whether it's been a conscious decision or whether he sort of subconsciously did it because she wasn't the focus of the cartoon at all. But Naomi Osaka, who, if you look at comparisons of, like, there's photos of the two of them cuddling, they have almost exactly the same skin tone. Like, Naomi Osaka is pretty much as black as Serena Williams is. I think she's like a half Asian, half Hawaiian, but she's got
very dark
skin. And the cartoon shows her as like a white blonde woman talking to the umpire, and the caption underneath
she's very pale.
Yeah, the caption underneath is the umpire saying, "Can't you just let her win?" Now, that is certainly a miscalculation. If it's intentional, then it would alert me to the fact that the cartoon has racist intentions. Certainly. But there's part of me that thinks it might just be because Naomi Osaka's not really a name. She's not really famous. Nobody really knows who she is, apart from the fact she just beat Serena Williams, and she wasn't the focus of the cartoon. So perhaps he just didn't really pay attention to the detail in that. Would be a defence I would put forward for him. However, it's a weak defence, and there's a good chance that it was a deliberate decision, and if so, it definitely makes the cartoon racist.
So the problem you have is, if you're a caricature artist, you accentuate nose, lips, ears, features. You accentuate features that are dominant on the person's appearance. That's always the case.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at his depiction of Obama sitting next to Trump.
Yes.
Is it next to Trump?
Yes.
It is, yeah, I believe it is, in the White House.
It's when they had that famous picture of them taken.
You could argue that picture is certainly borderline as stereotypically racist of Obama as the one to do with Serena.
Williams.
I'd say the Serena one is more, how would I put it, is more reminiscent of cartoons gone by.
Jim Crow era images and stuff like that.
And that's essentially where the danger has appeared. Like, if you look up caricatures of Michelle Obama, for example, you can see a caricature of Michelle Obama that doesn't look hugely racist. I mean, they've still drew Michelle Obama. Now, it's difficult to depict, like, first, Serena's a big lass.
Yes, I mean, like, so this.
I reckon she could pick me up and throw me across the fucking road, right?
Serena is a very muscular woman, right? So there's people saying, well, she's been drawn like really muscular and manly, but she is quite muscular and manly.
And she was throwing a tantrum.
She was,
and you have to depict that in a picture. So those two factors together.
Yeah, because I have seen people suggest that the fact that she was being depicted as aggressive is a racist trope. Now, I'm sorry, but she was aggressive, right?
She is aggressive, by the way. She's quite an aggressive person a lot of the time.
But she was extremely aggressive in the course of this match, which was the reason for this to be depicted, right? And essentially, my issue is this, right? If we're saying this picture can't be drawn because it's racist, you're stopping a guy from who has a history of drawing cartoons of sports people in the same fucking sport, doing the same kind of things in the past. Like, it's not like he's just decided to focus on Serena.
He drew Weinstein as Jabba the Hutt with women on chains.
Yeah, like it's within his style, and it's certainly within his sphere. It's something that he would do. I think it would be more racist for him to make the decision not to draw this caricature because it's a black woman. In my opinion, Serena Williams is a celebrity who is in the public eye, who earns a lot of money for doing what she does, and she is fair game for political satire or sport and satire in the same way as any other sports person or personality or celebrity in the public eye. And the reasons that have been given for this cartoon being racist, I believe, would apply to any caricature of any black person.
So the only thing that... So I disagree to a point, because I disagree that sometimes, and we've had this argument before with a different subject, but sometimes there is a time and place to say things, and there is a way that you execute something, right?
Yeah.
And in this scenario, while there is questions looming regarding racism and sexism, and it was already a heated discussion in the political sphere or the sporting sphere or the social sphere. I don't know what sphere it was in, but certainly it was definitely spherated. That's the word. I would say that you choose your arguments, and at the time, it wasn't the right thing to do, because if you've got a group of people, and be it the fact, most of them are probably white females around 40, but if you've got a group of people who are saying tennis is sexist and racist, drawing a picture that can be consumed as misogynist and racist is only going to have a negative impact. So yes, so like I said, he drew Weinstein, right? No one was going to be like, maybe you shouldn't be drawing Weinstein as a bit sexually rapey, because he's a big, horrible, nasty, sexually rapey person, right?
So, but Serena was aggressive.
No, she was, and I get that, but
and she was throwing a tantrum, and she was childish.
Yeah, no, I've already said that. I mean, I've literally called her a cunt twice. Right? So I am not a fan of the way she acted. In fact, I'd say that she should have been fined more, because it's the only way she'll fucking learn, because she thinks she can just get away with it, because she thinks she can get away with acting like a cunt because she's so famous.
She can.
I know, but she shouldn't be able to. Do you know what I mean? She shouldn't be able to. Like just the same way that I believe that there's many a footballer who deserves to have all their wages taken off them for a week, because they don't need a week's worth of wages, and it would be able to pay for a homeless person to go to fucking Harvard. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that would be a great thing if they did, if when footballers were fined, they were always fined a week's wages or 2 weeks' wages, and the money was given towards some sort of charity.
It'd be proportionate then. Do you know what I mean? So it then means that you would be losing a week's worth of your wages. And if you were Cristiano Ronaldo, or you were some boy who's playing for Stirling Albion, then you would still feel it in your pocket, because a week's worth of wages for any of these people, you'll still feel it in your pocket.
Yeah.
What?
No, I was just remembering the guy who used to play for Stirling Albion with a big massive dick. Do you remember that story? No. That Giannis guy? No. It was when it was a guy we went to school with who was playing for Stirling Albion when we were in 6th year, and he used to tell us stories about this. He was Italian or some shit. This guy in his who was in the team, who was a professional, who had an enormous dick. No? All right. Anyway.
Weird. Anyway. So
I was just remembering that fondly whenever you were talking.
So she needs to be able to be punished in a way that has a noticeable effect, because we have to and not just her, but all sports personalities, because fuck them, they're actually showing children that it's okay to act like children.
But that's
an issue within its own right? That's what I'm saying. So I'm not a fan of her, right? But with that being said, there is a time and place, and you have to choose your fights and arguments, and with the way that the world is right now, and the way that there's problems to be dealing with, possibly drawing a picture that will, for the most part, be looked at and people will go, picture seems a bit racist. It's probably not your best.
Well, you could say that, right?
Because you drew a picture of Obama and they didn't think it was racist.
No,
right? But it's about time.
But you could argue from the point of view of what we were talking about earlier with Eminem and Machine Gun Ball Bag. It was created in order to drive sales and focus media attention.
I have no doubt. Right? I have no doubt.
So if you're,
but if that's like you take the flag for it.
If you're, of course. But if you're a cartoonist who has an opportunity to do something that might be a wee bit controversial, I would also say that, in a sense, it's kind of comedy's place and it's satire's place to approach controversial subjects. That's what it's there for, if we shy away from that, we lose something as a culture. Now, just to clarify my position entirely here, right? I am not saying that this is not in some way a racist picture, right? I think on the balance of probabilities, it probably is. And certainly the fact that it has offended so many people in the black community means that it is an issue, and it is something that should be spoken around. It's something that should be talked about and discussed. However, there's a difference between having a conversation about this and figuring out what the rules are and figuring out whether or not this is okay, to just shutting down any conversation and going, no, this is racist, you're wrong. That's not going to solve anything, and it's not going to change anybody's mind who is of the opposite opinion, right? Further from that, I would say that I saw a lot of people getting angry about this who are white, would consider themselves liberal and left wing, but who were banging on about this on social media, but who I have never seen post anything about the percentage of black people in prison in both the UK and America, who I've never seen talking about the inequalities in wealth and education between black people and white people, who I've never seen posting about police brutality in America. You know, so it seemed to be a handy argument to have, and one which generated a lot of fucking social media outrage, but it was... we are picking our battles entirely wrong on the left, or from the liberal elite, or whoever the fuck is talking about this.
No, well, they're picking their battles, right? Because I'd say there was a lot of what the right like to call virtue signalling. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm so offended. Now, I can say in all honesty, in all consciousness, that I choose a lot of battles. So
yes, you do.
So I can say with complete consciousness and confidence that like. The reason that I stand saying that he should have chose his battles and as such he shouldn't have done the racist picture is because I will stand and argue about the police brutality in America, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm okay with it, but I would agree there seems to be a lot of people who are happy to be like, oh, it's totally racist. It's like, do you know what's totally racist? Hunters are fucking mad rednecks cutting up their fucking night socks because a guy who didn't want to fucking stone up.
Yeah, that's a fucking problem, right?
That's a problem, right? And they're not fighting for it, and I agree, right? But I entirely agree that the problem with the left as a whole is the fact that they are so fractured, worrying about everybody's own personal liberties, that they're not caring about world and social liberties. They're not caring about how the world is shaped or what is shaped around them. It's just like protect all these little minor things because it makes you sleep at night.
Yeah,
that's what
at the end of the day, for me, a black person is never my enemy. My enemy is the rich establishment elite, right? And that's their enemy too. We're on the same team. I have read books by prominent black authors. I am interested in black rights and stuff.
I've got black friends,
right? So I don't need to hold back from having this argument with people online, right? Because I'm comfortable in my own. I mean, like, realistically, I have black members of my own family, you know what I mean? Like, I've grown up with, right? So I don't need to defend myself from fucking any kind of accusations of racism. I know that there's probably a lot of people via my social media interactions in this past week about this who probably think I'm some sort of closet racist, right?
I've called you about 4 times. It's hilarious.
But I'm comfortable in my beliefs enough to think that this is worth talking about, right? And I think it's worthy of discussion just in terms of what are the rules here? What are we allowed to do? And I think basically in the conversations that I've had with people, it's come down to this, right? Either we can no longer caricature any black person because it might suffer from these same issues, because they might look racist because of the features that they exaggerate, or we're going to have to accept that there might be a wee bit of offence involved in any caricature of a black person because of the history of political cartoons which were used to denigrate them and dehumanise them.
But I would argue right now that CF, and I mean we're just a bit where we are getting to the end of this, but I would argue right now that CF, off the back of the Corbyn anti-Semite thing, CFA had drawn a picture of Corbyn with a right racist Jewish looking guy from like akin to German propaganda pictures, there would be the same outrage. People would still be like, can't believe you drew that guy looking like a Nazi propaganda poster. Do you know what I mean? So like there's a time and place for it where like if they drew like Corbyn with a prominent Jewish figure and the prominent Jewish figure looked like one of the Nazi propaganda pictures of like, you know, the hunched over Jew with like the teeth and the nose and like, you know what I mean, like the way that it's drawn, you would have the same.
I think that actually happened last week in one of the broadsheets.
Oh well, probably
the outrage was not there.
Well, I mean, I never seen it and I'd be outraged.
Right, I know, but you know what I mean.
Like, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is, so like, time and the place, if it was in the news and people were talking about it at the time and the article came up, people would be equally as offended by that because it's...
They weren't.
Time and place. Did people see it though?
Well, I don't know.
And that's what I mean. Like, because like the Serena stuff was in the public eye when this picture came out, which means those two things are linked straight away.
So, can I ask one quick question before we finish up?
Yeah.
When you first saw the cartoon for the first time, did you see it accompanied with someone saying this is racist, or did you just see the cartoon?
No, I seen the cartoon,
Right.
and I thought it was racist as shit.
Straight away,
as soon as I seen it, I thought, I actually seen the picture and thought, fucking hell, that looks like a Kiora advert.
Right.
Like, I mean, that was instantly what I thought. It was like, I genuinely, to me, it looked like she was going to boil Donald Duck in the fucking middle of the fucking rainforest in a fucking 1930s Disney movie. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, well, that's fair. That's
Like,
fair.
I mean, that's what I seen to me.
Because I didn't, right? I saw it and just thought, oh, there's a cartoonist, Serena Williams, being a dick, right? Now, honestly, I believe the fact that I didn't perceive it as racist is maybe a signifier that I just wasn't really focused on the fact that she's black and was being portrayed as some sort of stereotypical black person. I just saw it as, oh, there's Serena Williams and there's an umpire and there's a wee joke. It's just it's just poking fun at Serena Williams for being a dick. The fact that she's black is irrelevant to me.
When I seen it, I thought, shit, man, y'all fucking editors should have pulled that. That's the backlash that is going to come from that is not worth the picture. Not worth the picture.
Well, like, you could argue that it 100% is.
No, but
we now all know the name of the paper, the name of the cartoonist, all of these things.
No, but what I'm saying is,
and the whole any publicity is good publicity thing.
Aye, absolutely. But
so as an editor, I mean, first of all, it's a Murdoch-owned paper, so I don't see any scenario where I'm going to be the editor of that fucking newspaper ever.
No.
Sorry, D. But like fucking, it is what it is. If I was in that position, I would definitely put it out, because I would think to not do so would represent a bit of cowardice.
See, if I was in that position, I'd be like, "Did you fucking kidding me? Go draw a picture of something else. You're fucking psycho. If you fucking need, that's not worth my headache." Like, I get it. It's going to be great publicity, except I'm going to have people asking me why I came up with that and why I was okay with that, and I'm going to be like, I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my life.
So
my life is stressful enough as it is. I don't get enough sleep.
You'll never be a newspaper editor.
I am editing all the fucking time. I don't get enough sleep. I'm complaining about it all the time, and you're just going to give me a fucking headache with that. So get that picture to fuck. See, in 3 weeks' time, you put up as many fucking mad racist pictures you want about fucking Serena Williams, but not on my watch.
Right, fair enough. I will concede that there's perhaps elements of racism in the picture, but that's not what I saw when I first seen it. And
Which is fine.
And I think black celebrities are as fair game for caricature as anyone else.
I do agree with that. And like I said, it's just time and place. It's what was happening at the time, what questions were being asked. That's
current events, though. That's what you cartoon about, isn't it?
That's not what I cartoon about personally.
I don't cartoon.
Exactly. So I think that's us.
That's pretty much us. Yeah. If you are interested in our Patreon, we've recently revised all the tiers. So essentially now, if you can donate $1 a month, right, which is less than £1. So we deliberately put that tier in so that people who can't afford as much are still able to contribute if they feel that what we're doing is worthwhile. And for that, you'll get any extra content that is produced. So we put like outtakes, and usually before an episode we'll chat a wee bit and stuff like that. We put all that up there, so you'll get all of that for $1 a month. And there's various tiers up there which include like free t-shirts, or not free t-shirts, but you get a t-shirt for joining up, and a key ring and stuff like that as well. So go and have a look. That's patreon.com/PGMcast, and as always, we're available on www.notanotherfakenewscast.com.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, and look forward to a plethora of things that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've been asked to do a talk for the Scottish Secular Society, so
we have that to write as well, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, peace out.
Quality, bye-bye.